And the Renault Megane safety car leading them round. The blue, black and white car on pole position. Rob Baker starting that one. Alan Henderson is going solo in the Lotus Elise that looks tiny cut by comparison. Then the second row, another Seat Learn Euro Cup car. That's Matthew Wallace. And next to him, the dark blue and yellow Porsche Boxster of Steve Cheetham, a long time Porsche specialist, former Porsche 924 champion as well. So the safety car has peeled in. Rolling Thunder about to roll past our commentary position as the race shortly to get underway. The cars are coming up to the line for 2 hours of racing in the TEGIWA Club Enduro Championship. The red lights you can see are on, and when they go out the race gets underway, which it does now. And they head off up towards Rich's Corner for the first time. Steve Cheetham, I could see from the second row of the grid, has made a good start, but it's going to be a very busy first lap or so, with the order really shaken up, as you were saying this morning, Josh, by the conditions in qualifying. How is that going to sort itself out in the first lap or so of this race? Well, it's the top two, as expected. Rob Baker leading, Alan Henderson second in the Lotus, and Steve Cheetham third in the Porsche. So not too many upsets so far right at the front.
Up to fourth has come Andy Schulz, so he's come through from row 4 of the grid, so that is a good start from him, isn't it? A driver you would more likely see in a Ferrari 488 in other championships. There's the Holden Commodore alongside a Mazda MX-5. Where else do you see that in, well, worldwide motorsport? Probably nowhere else, actually. So they make their way down into Palmer, and making his way up through the order is Will Ashmore. But it's side by side for the lead, because Alan Henderson using the lighter, nimble Lotus to get alongside Rob Baker, but he was unable to get ahead of him because then the power come into play. And behind, Andy Schulz is going for third. He's trying to get ahead of Steve Cheetham, and he's got through in the BMW. So the M3 ahead of the Porsche Boxster. Really good start from him. Really experienced endurance racer, and this first lap is showing why.
Yeah, absolutely right. And bouncing back really probably from a disappointing qualifying session for that car. Final cars still heading around Agostini. That's the treble 6 Mark Jones, Tony Rogers Seat Supercope that qualified behind the safety car at lunchtime. So down towards as they come at Brundle and Nelson for the first time in this 2-hour race, and it is still the Rob Baker Seat leading from the Alan Henderson Lotus in second place, but not too much to choose between them as they make their way out of Nelson. But it'd be interesting to see if Andy Schultz, with that good start already, having made up several places, if he can make up any more here and maybe challenge these two in the opening laps of this race. He's certainly pulling away from the 43 Porsche of Steve Cheetham in fourth position at the moment. We'll try and have a look as well as what's going on as far as the classes are concerned when they come back through to complete lap 1. But through Murray's go the leaders, and it is still Rob Baker leading the way from Alan Henderson.
And it's 4 makes a car in the top 4 positions, isn't it? You've got the Seat, the Lotus, the BMW and the Porsche. And it's a challenge for second place going down towards Rich's Andy Schulz, using the power of the BMW M3 to go through and ahead of Alan Henderson. So he's gained another place, has Andy Schulz, but has he got it done for sure? Because Alan Henderson comes back alongside Schulz in the braking zone for Wilson. He brakes really, really late, tries to get alongside that BMW. He's half alongside. He's up the curb. He's got the inside line for Palmer. and the BMW, the bigger car, uses its power to stay ahead. So this is the problem for Alan Henderson. He hasn't got the power of these bigger cars. He's quicker through the corners, but he loses out down the straights.
To put this in context, this car finished 35th overall and 11th in class at Silverstone, 15th overall and 7th in class at Alton Park. So a really good start to this race by Andy Schultz, who isn't really able to get away from the little Lotus, though, of Alan Henderson at the moment, but it's starting to allow Rob Baker in the Seat Lowen leading the race to make a bit of a break, maybe. They're heading down towards Oggies for the second time in this race.
Fantastic start from Joe Locke, 14th to 6th in his M3.
Yeah, and Mark Grice leading Class B at the moment from Brian Chandler. Class C being led by Andy Bailey, but he dropped from, row 3 of the grid down to 14th position, kind of as you expected, really, Josh, with that car somewhat out of position given the heavy rain that set just a few minutes into qualifying.
Indeed, just looking down the order, I think the most impressive start it has been from Joe Locke, which is a good job from him in this first time he's raced this car. So up to 6th place, so that is a car to watch, isn't it? Alan Henderson then is dropping away a little bit, isn't he, to those in front of him. So perhaps Snetterton not such a friendly circuit for the Lotus. Just looking back to last year, Joe Taylor did get second in that similar car on this layout, didn't he? As the rest of the field come through. And he's had a problem here for one of the BMWs. That's the Kevin Denwood car, is it? The Red Rascal BMW?
I think it is. It's sort of pulled off to the left-hand side, keeping out of everybody's way. That's a car that started on row 13 of the grid. I imagine it had made up some ground.
16th.
It was 16th at the end of that one, 10 places up, wasn't it, pretty much? And now in problems, and it's behind the 481 car. So that's down to, right into the 30 odd position there. So problems for Kevin Dengate, it would seem, and maybe he'll be an early pit visitor.
He was on the podium at Silverstone at the beginning of the season. Here comes Joe Locke. He's gaining more positions, or he's giving it a go anyway, on Matt Wallace's Seat. He looks to the outside. It's a long way round on the outside line, so he can't quite make it. But he is lapping quicker than Wallace and quicker than Steve Cheetham too.
There's a little bit of damage there on the front of Joe Locke's car that we could see, possibly earned on the in the first few corners of that very busy start to the race, and certainly as he was forging his way up the order. Wouldn't be surprised if there was a little bit of damage incurred.
Change for the Class B lead. Brian Chandler going solo in that Lotus Exige. Local driver from down in Haverhill has got past Mark Grice and has pulled out a 3-second gap. So that's a great lap there from Brian Chandler. Very experienced MX-5 racer, but now having to go in this Lotus and going solo. That's a strong car in the class, you'd think.
Yeah, he's been successful with the 750 motor win the 5 Club Racing competition in the past as Brian Chandler. But spends most of his time these days running cars for other people across various categories. There's the 10 car of Matthew Wallace, the Hot Badger Motorsport car run by Area Motorsport. There you can see Steve Cheetham in 4th position, quite a long way behind Alan Henderson now. It was over 6 seconds at the start of the lap, and it's Wallace behind him, and then that fast starting BMW of Joe Locke, number 8 in 6th position. They're turning their way through Brundle and Nelson. That's really the battle to watch. Last time through, Locke was just over half a second faster than Wallace, and he was how far behind? He was only about 3/10 behind, so the gap's not really moved on this lap. There's the 68 car, which is the Darren Kell started MX-5.
He's second in Class C, but 4 seconds behind Andy Bailey, the pole sitter in that class in the Civic. Remember, you said he started 6th. He's down to 19th now, is Bailey, but he survived those first few laps and got a good lead within the class over the Mazda MX-5 we're watching here. And Darren Kell, is he still in second? Because Graham Kelly, his BMW might be ahead now, I reckon. And a big accident for Joe Locke. We said how well he was going with that car. He's much more damaged at the front now than it was, isn't it?
Yes. So he's got... Where
Richie's is my guess.
Yellow flags, but Richards can see out of the window. So he's found the barriers there, I'm afraid to say. Not quite sure how that happened, but Joe Locke was up to 6th position at the end of the 3rd lap, but now out of the race. Now, Alan Henderson here has really not let Andy Schultz get away, has he? They're about 2 3/4, 3 seconds behind the leading car of Rob Baker. That's the Seat, but 69 Andy Schultz and 90 Alan Henderson running nose to tail as they head towards Oggies.
Note for Rob Baker, full tank of fuel, 2 minutes 04.4, is only 1 second away from Phil Keane, very quick driver's lap record in Club Enduro. That's a good effort, I'd suggest.
And news from Matt Suckling. Joe locked up on the inside at Ritchie's trying to pass the say out of Matt Wallace. So that's what happened to Joe Locke and why he has ended up, I'm afraid, in the barriers.
I guess the grass is pretty wet still, isn't it? And he's gone straight off into the tyre wall. And significant damage, it looked like, from that shot we got to the front of that car. And Ash Hicklin, therefore, will not get a go in it. There is Brian Chandler, the Class B lead. Look at the gap he's pulled out to Mark Grice, some 6 seconds. He's done a 2:08.1, which is quicker than Callum McLeod's lap record, British GT race winner. So that's a good effort from Brian Chandler, but his gap is going to be eroded because, unsurprisingly, the safety car is coming out.
Yeah, yellow flags waving opposite us, and safety car has been released. It has picked up the leading car, which is good news, which has just come across the line to complete its 4th lap. So Rob Baker behind the safety car. Now, we heard Rob and Carl talking about Sebastian. They said, well, if there's a safety car, we'll take advantage of it. Do you think they'll literally do that now?
Equally, they said the car will only do 80 minutes on fuel. Well, they didn't say it exactly, but I figured from what they were saying that's what they meant, because they said we'd have to come in after 1 hour and 20 minutes. So saying that says to me that car will only do 80 minutes on fuel, which means they can't come in, but there are cars that can in.
Yeah, and not necessarily for scheduled stops. Alex Richardson in the number 81. Mazda MX-5 there, the driver.
So that car is a couple of seconds a lap quicker than anybody else. But if they can't make the use of this pit stop where Alan Henderson can, it really may put them at a disadvantage.
Of course, you're not guaranteed this will be the only safety car period during the race, of course. Run down on the order because we're about 10 minutes in. So it is the number 6 car of Rob Baker and Carl Swift that's leading. From 69, Andy Schultz and Mike Thompson in 2nd place. In 3rd place, the 43 car of Steve Cheetham. In 4th place, the number 10 car, Matt Wallace, Simon Wallace. 5th, 176 car of Brian Chandler, who's made such good progress. 6th, number 27, Mark Grice and Will Beach. 7th, number 14, Chris Freeman and Johnny Monday. 8th, the number 128 car of Marcus Burnett, as we see the 68 car in. So that's Darren Cowell. Now, have we already had the change of drive? You can see James Cowell outside the car with his helmet on. But yet to get into it.
Of course, can't get into the car till the refuelling is done.
Yeah, but it looks like he's poised, doesn't it?
Yes, James Cowell, current British GT racer, races the new Toyota Supra for Speedworks Motorsport. And there is a shorter BMW M3 than what it started its race.
Obviously quite a hard hit, that one, unfortunately. Just to carry on the order, 8th is 128 Marcus Burnett, then 9th, number 7. Well, that's the Holden Commodore, isn't it, of Will Ashmore, and that started way back on the grid, on row 17 of the grid. That started, so that's up to 9th place, and 10th, the 115 car of Jamie Ingram of the BMW 46 M3. There's Alan Henderson's car, though, in the pits, Josh.
The other cars in are 25 Darren Ball, as you said, also 15 Colin Gillespie. That timing screen now saying he's gone back to a BMW, so not sure if Gillespie's in the BMW or a Civic. We'll have to check that. Darren Cowell in the Mazda MX-5. Kevin Dengate must have got back up to speed because he did a 2 minutes 19 before coming into the pits. 59 Nick Dougal also in, as is 81 the Tid Martin Richardson MX-5, as you spotted. So a number of cars have made their way into the pit lane, and we'll see if any more do this time. Because I suspect we'll have another lap under safety car. Can Alan Henderson get out ahead of the safety car train? He cannot, and the lead is in, isn't it? Because the first car behind the safety car was Andy Schultz. So Rob Baker has come in. And yes, Alan Henderson does lose a lap, though, because the safety car lap was at, about 3.5 minutes. That's what the time was, and therefore he just couldn't quite get out in front of it. What would be the penalty for going out too soon? Because that actually might be advantageous if you decided to do that.
So there are a range of penalties available, including one for a short stop. And if you don't do that, it will be a penalty added at the end of the race, 1 minute plus the balance of the pit stop duration not taken.
You kind of would suggest, if you were very sneaky, and that's something you should not do really, but if you got out in front of the safety car, caught all that up, you would actually probably lose less than the penalty, wouldn't you?
So that's an interesting thought. So we still are under safety car conditions. We could see that the BMW being driven by Joe Locke had been recovered well out of the way.
That is something that was done, I think it was last year at Laguna Seca in the GT International Challenge race. The Audi team had worked out that a short pit stop, all the penalty was a drive-through, and at Laguna Seca the pit lane is so short that a drive-through penalty was less than what they were gaining. And it's not in the spirit of the rules, is it? But it is something that you can use.
Well, and that's it. Motorsport has always been about pushing the rules, whatever they are, whether it's a technical regulation or a pit stop regulation. You push them to the limit. The danger is you push it too far, you end up penalised, or you just end up with the loophole closed for the next time anyone tries to use it.
Cars that come in onto the pits on that lap, we had car 6, the race leader, Rob Baker, 51, Luke Handley, 95, Andy Bailey, so that's all area motorsport cars, 188, Graham Kelly, 481, the Christie and Mills M3, so another 5 cars came in, 6, 51, 95, 188 and 481.
And I guess more wouldn't have have not done so because it's not really early enough or late enough in the race to be useful to them, because we're still only less than 15 minutes into this race. And I guess most people, if you have a pit stop somewhere in the middle 40 minutes of the race, then that will be quite useful. But a safety car at this stage is just too early to take advantage of, really.
So safety car, I suggest, is coming in this time. We saw the M3 behind the tyre wall. There's James Kell, isn't it? Say Toyota driver in British GT. So his dad didn't get much of a drive, did he? But this could bode well for their race. Safety car may not be coming in because Joe Locke hit that tyre wall at such a rate it needs repairing. So the Snetterton maintenance staff make their way down there, Ian. If you can probably help me out with that word.
Yeah, they are. The maintenance staff are there. And they are just rebuilding the tyre barrier. There's the belt that will need to be brought across the front of it and reattach the barrier to make that safe before racing can get back underway again. There's a car in the pits.
That's the problem. Is that the Christie BMW?
I think it possibly is. Yeah.
Ed Christie and Neil Mills, who are out there in 481 BMW M3.
Yeah, that was a car that qualified 36th fastest.
So who's going to come in this time? Look, there's big moment there. Rob Baker's got out in front of the safety car. Now, how long was his pit stop one, you wonder?
Well, we know that the last... Well, let's see what the safety car lap time was. Andy Schultz and none of the leading 4 or 5 cars going in. But look, what's the safety car lap time when it crosses the line this time? Have a look at the Hampson Schultz time. And as they go across the line to complete lap 6... That safety car lap was 4 minutes, so probably reasonably safe, I would think.
So it was longer than the lap before, so that's a big story in the race, isn't it, that's just happened there.
Yeah.
And that was the fastest car in the track. The other question is whether they can do the rest of the race on that fuel tank.
Yes.
Because they didn't sound confident to me that they could do more than 80 minutes in that interview that we heard with Matt Suckling earlier.
And as we said, any pit stop that involves refuelling has to be 3 minutes 30 seconds long.
It's worth the risk though, isn't it? Because if it works, they've won the race really, haven't they? It's as simple as that. Whereas, look here, the Hanley and Bailey cars from the lower classes, because of course they weren't right at the front of that queue when they come in, they're 3 minutes and 30 to put them behind the safety car train and therefore a lap down, which still is a better outcome than if you hit under green flag running, but it's not as good as the outcome that has occurred for Rob Baker and Cole Swift, who are back on circuit and will catch up to the safety car train and really not lost anything, have they? The 30 seconds or so maybe at the back of the queue, but not very much at all.
No. So Schultz it is that leads. Steve Cheetham in second, Matt Wallace third, Brian Chandler up to fourth, Mark Rice fifth, Chris Freeman sixth is the order as things stand, while the safety car is out there. Still this work going on up there at Rich's corner to get the barriers in good order for the race to continue after it was thwacked by the Joe Lock BMW.
Gives us time just to reflect on that lap time I mentioned from Brian Chandler, 2 minutes 08.1, a lap record in Class B, 4 tenths quicker than Callum McLeod, who is such a fast driver. I think he was driving a Porsche, wasn't he, a couple of seasons ago. So he was a pro driver, obviously, in it. British GT race winner, Formula Ford champion, I think, Callum McLeod was in the British Championship. So to beat that time from Brian Chandler, a pretty new car to him, still that Lotus, really does show that is a car to watch in that class in upcoming races, and perhaps for a full campaign next season.
A reminder, if you want to get access to the live timing, you can go to the 750 Motor Club website, 750mc.co.uk, 750mc.co.uk, and you'll find a link there on the banner to the live timing and also to the digital programme with the entry list for this race and all the other races here today at Snetterton. And also via that, if you're not already watching the live stream, you can find that as well, 750mc.co.uk/live for the live stream on the Snetterton 300 circuit this weekend. Full 3 mile length, and the marshals and the 750 Motor Club rescue crew also assisting to get the barrier rebuilt to allow the racing to continue just as soon as possible.
Obviously, further this goes in, it may open up somebody's pit stop window, mightn't it?
Yeah, it's been the pit stop, the safety car's been out for about 10 minutes now, hasn't it? So, and we've had 20 minutes of racing so far in this 120-minute race. So yes, you're right. It could start to get to the point where it is a viable time at which to stop for some cars, which even a few minutes ago it might not have been.
Do share the live stream links on your chosen social media form, and let your friends know about this is on, and they may want to watch, and if you can put into the comments who you're supporting, we'll be able to see who the most popular driver is in the Club Enduro Championships.
So far, on a sample of 1, it appears to be Steve Cheetham, who's getting some support. And he's there in second place at the last year's champion, of course, Steve Cheetham, boxed, but very experienced, racing in Porsches in various championships, also the Porsche 924 champion so many years ago. There you can see, just going across the line there, was the number 6 car, which had been in for into the pits, now, and presumably it's now driven by Carl Swift.
Yes, and it sounded like it was going around on top gear trying to save fuel. So is this going to be a fuel save run for Carl Swift to make sure that he gets to the end without the need for another pit stop? And you sort of see that in IndyCar, don't you? Lots of fuel saving runs. It's not something you normally talk about in club racing, but that may be something that he needs to do here. Perhaps run the car in a higher gear than what he would normally do to get the best MPG possible.
It's certainly a roll of the dice, the early pit stop, wasn't it? But it may work for them. And the thing is, if it doesn't work for them, then, well, the one situation is they could have another 3-minute, 30-second pit stop to put even a moderate amount of fuel in the car, or they may just run out on circuit, I suppose, is the other possibility before the end of the race. I guess they'll want to try and get to the end to make sure they're classified at least with at least half an eye on the championship.
I don't think anybody came in on that lap at all. So we've got 29 cars that haven't stopped. Interestingly, the last one of those, Liam Bidgeway, why was he at the back of the pack, assuming he didn't make a pit stop and we missed it?
Good question.
Because you would think he shouldn't be at the back, wouldn't you? Not unless he had an issue at some stage. I certainly didn't notice that car in the pits.
Right.
But it is possible that we would have missed it.
It looks like that 49 car, which I was a bit confused about on the grid. That's being soloed from by Joseph Marshall now, by the looks of it, with Will Stacey having switched to drive the Lotus Elise ST with Peter Mansfield. That's the 119 car.
Okay.
So that looks like that's what's gone on there. since qualifying. Yellow flags continuing to wave and safety car boards continuing to be shown all around the circuit, as the drivers will be aware of what's going on at Rich's Corner as they pass that every lap. They'll be wondering and calculating how long it will be until the safety car is back in the pit lane and we can get back under green flag racing again. Had about 13 or 14 minutes of safety car circulation so far, so more than half of the race distance so far has been behind the safety car, or more than half of the race time.
Interestingly, the Wallace hasn't come into the pits, has it? Which you'd think has the same fuel economy to the Baker Swift one.
Well, possibly there. I mean, they're sort of independent teams, in the sense that they'll develop their own strategy, I guess. But equally, maybe you throw the dice. One goes one way, one goes the other. Dave Havis is supporting Nick Dougal, racing on his own in the TWP number 59 Mazda this weekend. John Monroe, his usual co-driver, of course, as we mentioned earlier on, not with us this weekend. He tested positive for COVID. He's isolating at the moment. I'm sure John will be watching the stream as well. And we wish you a speedy recovery. Hopefully you're not getting symptoms that are too bad, John, and that you'll be back racing with Club Enduro very soon. But for the moment, circulating behind the safety car, you're not missing too much effectively. There is that 6 car. And again, it looks like, or sounds like at least, it is very much on a fuel-saving drive at the moment. Snetterton 300 circuit hosted the first ever sort of prototype Club Enduro race a good few seasons ago now, didn't it? Which was effectively at the time just a longer distance road sports race. What was that, 2015?
It was.
The first of those?
Yeah, it was 2.5 hours then. It was won by the BMW M3 of Lee Spencer, Stephen Pearson and Dave Griffin. Yep. And this, who comes second, really shows you how much this has come on. It was a relay between a Peugeot 106 and a Porsche 924, so I don't think you'd get one of them onto the overall podium now. That was Steve Hewson and Rob Gillam. And then third was Stuart Much and Ben Short in the Mazda MX 150R kit car. So that's it's very much come on since then, hasn't it? Then, if you look at Snetterton results in 2016, it was a Caterham that won then. Russ Olivan and Elliot Norris from the BMW M3 of Henry Wright and Jamie Packham. And then Andy Marston and Brett Evans as M3 came third.
One of the Lotuses just hanging out of the pit lane.
Is that Liam Bidray?
I think it could have been, yeah. So that would...
Though that suggests maybe not, looking at the timing screen.
Anyway, what we saw a moment ago, I know you just came through the results of previous Snetterton races, looked like the barriers had been repaired and rebuilt at Rich's, so I think we might be good to go racing this time.
Yeah, it looked like the lights may have been out on the safety car. So what's going to happen here is the leader's going to get away, isn't he, Andy Schultz, because he's got a backmarker car between him and the rest.
Yeah, and Steve Cheatham will only be able to overtake that car once he's over the line. But as the race restarts, so it will hold moderately some of the other quick guys behind him, but equally it has, the fact the safety car has been out in the first place has closed some of the gaps to what they otherwise would have been.
Yes, because we saw Brian Chandler, for example, pulling away in Class B, didn't we? So he's now got Mark Grice on his tail.
Zan Tidmarsh asks what happened to the number 81 car. Well, we don't know. It was the first car to come into the pit stop. It looked like there was some damage to one of the corners on that car. Kevin Presswich is watching from Coram Curve. Hi, Kevin. Good to see that you're tuning in from the circuit. But the green flag is now waving and the race gets back underway. 93 minutes left to go, so just over an hour and a half left to go in this race, and it's Andy Schultz that leads at the moment.
Change for the Class B lead there. Mark Grice round the outside of Brian Chandler. It's very busy, isn't it, as they try to pass Ivor Mares. You also had the Chris Freeman Honda Civic and the BMW M3 of Marcus Burnett all battling for Class B. There they are, going through your shot now. And the Burnett M3 has got ahead of the Civic, hasn't it? There's more cars past Ivor Mares. This is going to be quite a lap, isn't it, for Ivor Mares with all those cars coming past him constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess you kind of have to get used to that if you're driving a lower powered car in these multi-class races.
Generally, you wouldn't have this many cars trying to pass you in one go.
Not in one go. And here comes the Holden Commodore blasting its way past, and that is for position, I think, isn't it? Yes, it is. So that's Will Ashmore getting ahead of the number 14 Chris Freeman, Johnny Monday Honda. And now setting off after the Marcus Burnett BMW, the 128 car.
Left-hand drive, the Holden. Not many of those, I wouldn't think, in the race. Left-hand drive cars, so there's no more Holdens in the race, of course. 6.2 litre engine this has got, which is a much larger capacity than anything else in the field. What's the next biggest? 3.4 litres, I think. So almost double the size of the engine that anybody else has got out there. But it does mean, despite that more power it will create, it won't be anywhere near as light as some of the cars. It'll be the heaviest car in the grid. And he's now passing most of the Class B machines. He's got ahead of Brian Chandler as well. So that will put him
5th, I think.
Yes, because in 4th position, of course, is Mark Grice, which is interesting. He got ahead of Brian Chandler and absolutely bolted away from him,
well,
rather unlike the first part of the race.
Well, he has, yeah. There's the 3-1 Monday Alpha Honda.
Burnett over the curb sideways. That wasn't an ideal line. He's lost the place that he gained at the beginning of the lap.
Yeah, so there's Steve Cheetham. He's still in 2nd place. Then you've got Matthew Wallace in 3rd. Mark Grice pushing on in the Golf in 4th position, leading Class B in the car that he shares with Bull Beach. They won the class at Alton Park last time out. But Andy Schultz has got across the line to complete lap number 10, and he's 3.6 seconds now ahead of these two cars. Steve Cheetham in the Porsche, Matt Wallace in the Seat, 2nd and 3rd. And they're heading down to the Wilson hairpin once again as we come up to 1/4 race distance.
Okay. A couple of drivers doing their best laps of the race on that restart. One of them was Tom Rogers, who's going well in the Honda Civic in 10th position, also doing personal best lap. Michael Downey in the Porsche Boxster. Tom Whitehead, debut for that Honda Integra in the championship that he shares with Tom Gannon, and I'd expect Tom Gannon to be pretty quick when he gets into that, because that is a Class A Honda Integra. That might be one to watch. Meanwhile, for 2nd, Matt Wallace is alongside the Porsche now of Steve Cheetham. So you've got sports car versus touring car here, and that say it makes the Porsche look pretty small, really, doesn't it? Steve Cheetham, though, hanging on to 2nd, a driver who's upgraded his car over the winter, of course. That was the champion last year, running that car to Class B spec, so taking a bit of weight out, a bit more power into Class A, and he's battling away here with the Seat of Matt Wallace down the Bentley Straight on what is lap 11 of this race.
There's the race leader, Andy Schultz. Of course, we've had some drivers go very early with the pit stop, so it'll be a little while before we can really start to make sense of the overall order. There is the early leader, Carl Swift, we think, now aboard that car, the number 6 car. Where's that in the running order, Josh, at the moment?
24th, so he only gained 6 places on that first flying lap. His lap time was a 2:10 compared to Alan Henderson, a 2:13 actually, so he did better than Henderson, who would also have been right in that traffic but a lap further down.
Yeah, on that lap, the race leader, Andy Schultz, did a 2:07.5 to put that in context, but the other leading contenders were doing around 2:10s as well. Past the number 56 Mini goes the number 6 car, that's Lloyd Quinn in the Mini Cooper R56 at the moment.
And he's 2nd within Class C behind the Honda Civic of Jeremy Crook. They're only separated by a 2nd at the beginning of the lap. There's another place gained for Swift. He's getting ahead of that Honda Integra now of Tom Whitehead. Race lead gap for Andy Schultz is out to 5 seconds over Steve Cheetham, who's starting to get away again from Matt Wallace. Did a personal best lap to achieve that, 2:08.5. Brian Chandler's lost another place, has he, here, to Chris Freeman, and his lap times are some 5 seconds off what he did earlier, which is just really weird, isn't it, that he's lost all that pace that he had before the safety car period.
A bit weird, yeah.
There he is. Oh, he's got about ahead of Freeman, hasn't he? But
not by very much. No. The two of them nose to tail as they head down to Agostini. Now, car off there is the treble 6 car. That's the one that started right at the back. Mark Jones in the Seat Super Copa, 2 litre. Drive from Crewe. Just looks to have come to a stop with some kind of mechanical issue there, maybe.
Quite possibly. So enough of the Seats, but that one's not having such a good run. Got the Clapham North Mazda MX-5 there. Who's in that? It says 49 on it.
Which is the Joseph Marshall car.
Is that not supposed to be a Lotus? So that is that a car change as well as losing his teammate?
That could be. Yeah.
That car was taken to a podium finish, I think, by Abby Eaton in the MX5 Super Cup, wasn't it, a few weeks ago? Assuming that's the same Clapham North MX5, of course.
Yeah, there is the 119 car that's just ahead of it. So that is effectively the teammate car. There, that's the Leon Bidgeway car, isn't it?
So perhaps it's in problems, isn't it? That's not the first time that car's been in problems, unfortunately, in its race history.
No, DNS and DNF so far this season, its results.
And it wasn't much better last season, was it?
No.
There's James Cowell now, isn't it, in that Mazda MX-5. So his battle, which actually might be for the victory, really, with Andy Bailey. Now, where's the Civic in all of this? They were separated by 700ths of a second at the end of the lap. He's ahead of Bailey, isn't he? No, he's not. He's behind, sorry. But he's only just behind. That's Bailey just turning into the S's from James Cowell. And that could well be the Class C lead battle once everything sorts itself out with the pit stops, both having pitted already. Both good drivers. That should be a pretty interesting race. Two very different cars, though, the Honda Civic and the Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of this class structure, designed around power to weight ratio. There's Ivan Mayers getting stuck in as well, and that's the Andy Bailey car that's alongside him, isn't it?
So yeah, not very much between those two, is it? So you've got really an hour and a half race. All problems in the background. There's a lot of smoke or steam I spotted, but we moved away from that shot, so we'll go back to it if that is a problem. Hopefully all is okay.
Of course, the Mazda was alongside the 15 Colin Gillespie Honda there, which sort of has answered the question that we were both having earlier on.
Okay.
85 minutes left to go.
And that's also in that battle for position, but it is a Class B car, of course. But there is Cole Swift. How far is he up now? He is 13th, and he's done a 2:06, so he pretty much is the quickest car on the circuit, isn't he? And compares to Alan Henderson, who's doing a 2:07, but a lap behind, basically. So you would not pick any other car to win this race at this point, would you, other than that one on your screen?
No, unless, of course, there's the second stop to make, of course, which we just don't know for more fuel.
So there's Brian Chandler. He has fallen now 8 seconds behind Mark Grice and hasn't found any more pace yet in that Class B battle. Third in class is Freeman, fourth in class is Tom Rogers, and in fifth position is John Maudsley in golf. We've seen quite a few of the golfs this year, which is good to see them coming into the championship for 2020.
Again, I think it is the kind of car that is going to be a good, robust, reliable car for endurance racing as well, isn't it? And quick. Oh, and one of them,
Luke Handley?
Looks like Luke Handley, isn't it? Yeah, heading straight on onto the runoff and missing out Brundle and Nelson there. Back on the maybe outbraked himself, did he? Into Brundle.
And for the little time you lose by going down the escape road, perhaps that's the better option in these longer races, isn't it? Now, I saw a smoky car, now we see a driver, so is that related?
Yeah, I'm not sure, or is, I'm not quite sure who that is. Can't see the car to which it relates.
But it's in the area of where I did see some smoke or steam earlier. Here's Andy Bailey, and he's pulling away, I'd suggest, from James Cowell, isn't he?
Yes, he is, definitely. Certainly the big gap between those two cars than there was a lap ago. So in terms of overall positions at the moment,
something like 34th and 35th.
But that will shake out with the pit stops that all the drivers and teams will need to make during the course of this race. That's Ivan Mayers again.
You've also got Graham Kelly in there, who's also pitted. He's only a couple of seconds behind James Cowell. Yeah. So you've got three of them, which are pretty close. There's car 15. That is Colin Gillespie, isn't it? Not his BMW, but in his Honda Civic today. Yeah. And there is Ivan Mayers in his Mazda MX-5, the car that's run by Paul Sheard this season. He raced a BMW last year, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
There's Luke Handley, who had that off a moment ago.
Yeah, strange. Whether it indicates that there's a problem with the brakes or something, or some other issue on that car, or if it was just a driver misjudgment on that previous lap. One to keep an eye on.
Luke Handley is one of the few drivers that made the use of that safety car period to pit.
Yeah.
So he, at the end of this, could be in a good position. assuming all is well with the car.
Yeah, absolutely right. 316 River Mares. Been a good support of Club Enduro over the past few years, but also we've seen him supporting Formula Ford 1600, Formula Ford Festival as well.
He's gone from
over the years.
One extreme to another, really, hasn't he? With really short races at Brands Hatch to long races here in Club Enduro, but he seems to enjoy himself, doesn't he?
Yeah, great enthusiast for Club Motorsport. So along the Bentley Straight stream, these cars.
John Munro suggests that's Nick Dougal we saw at the side of the track.
Ah, right. Okay. You're right. He does, doesn't he? So our Dougal recognition not as strong as it should be, but would have recognised John, I think, had he been here. But no, great show. The 59 TWP car is.
He had just done his personal best lap of the race before that too, 2:21.3.
How often does that happen? Someone does a personal best lap, and then the next lap they retire for whatever reason.
You wonder if they're related sometimes, don't you?
Sometimes you do. So the TWP car progressing no further. There's the 6 car then, which made that stop to hand from Rob Baker's car swift in the early stages of the race, and
passing
Brian Chandler for position.
But did you see that Brian Chandler was waving him through, and he kind of forgot that he needed to stay on the tarmac at the same time and had 2 tyres on the grass, but he's sorted himself out. He's quite used to having his arm out the cockpit of cars, isn't he? Did that in Mazda MX-5 racing a lot too.
Let's head down to the pit lane and Matt Suckling.
Thanks guys, down here with the number 6 machine and Rob Baker, who did a very short stint in that first part of the race. It was about 10 minutes, Rob, wasn't it?
Yeah, short stint. We saw obviously the Lotus stopped, and we're tight on fuel, but we're more than fine for getting to the end. And we managed to get out before the safety car came round, so we've not even lost a lap from doing the stop. So we're kind of in the same situation, but doing a stop just places down, but Carl's making them up reasonably quickly. So we hope to take it steady now and we'll get us to the end.
That was really handy to come out in front of the safety car for Carl, and just before the safety car got back underway, it looked like he was saving a little bit of fuel, just kind of backing off and reducing the speed.
Yeah, because he came out in front of the safety car, obviously he's got a lot of distance to cover to catch the back of the train. So as soon as he knew that he was going to catch the back of the train before it came in, we basically eased right off after that.
So as you said, if anything goes wrong, you're going to come in, but if it stays as it is, you're going to stay out there?
Yeah, he'll stay out there. We should be good on fuel. Car felt great. It was a bit sketchy on the first few laps, but once we got the tyres warm, it was really good. So, yeah, fingers crossed we'll get to the end.
Good stuff. Cheers, Rob.
What did we spot in the background of that interview, Josh?
It looked to me like Alan Henderson was for the pit lane, and he hasn't completed his 14th lap of the race, so I think Alan Henderson is in problems.
Yeah, and that, of course, the main rival to the number 6 car, certainly in terms of pace in qualifying this morning.
Guess what Alan Henderson had just done?
Was it his personal best lap?
It would have been. It was a 2 minutes 5.0 as well, not that far away from what Rob Baker done in that car earlier on.
Best lap of the race so far is in the Baker and Swift car, which is in 6th position overall, a 2:04.21. You were talking about Phil Keen's lap record, 2:03.48 in this category, so not too far outside of that.
Phil Keen's won a few races in the past.
Certainly has. Very experienced driver, professional driver now. But I remember him starting. I think it was Formula Vauxhall Junior. I saw him racing in. Remember at Mallory Park.
He's a Lamborghini factory driver nowadays. Up to 4th now is the Holden. So how's Will Ashmore doing on lap time? 2 minutes 10. So he is a little bit down, isn't he, on other Class A cars? But this is the first race for that car. It's fantastic to see something like that out in Club Enduro, because it isn't really what you'd think of, is it? But it's and actually it's our first 1,000 day, isn't it? That happened earlier.
Yeah.
So a great day it is as well for that car to make its debut with the championship.
Absolutely. Right, there is the Kell Mazda, and it is still running in 34th position, about 9 seconds behind Andy Bailey, who is the sort of nominal class leader, but of course we can't really say that at the moment because these two have made their stops. Lots of the Class C cars haven't.
Kelly's being caught though by Graham Kelly, which isn't the first of the BMWs behind him, but the second of them.
Yeah, the blue car.
Indeed. And perhaps the Mazda MX-5 not suited so well to Snetterton, long straight. Oh, Andy Bailey has a big moment trying to go past some of the traffic there. He was really crossed up on the brakes, so he's pushing on, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly is. So heading through the bomb hole now, 56. That's the Lloyd Quinn Mini Cooper, man from Newcastle.
So he's actually second in Class C. The class leader is Jeremy Crook, yet to pit 20 seconds up the road.
Yeah. And I guess we're getting to the point in the race where pit stops do start to become more viable for drivers, because we're into the middle third now, aren't we? That's the 481 car. That was in the pits earlier, wasn't it? And it looks like it might head back there.
Well, might be going for the paddock even, indeed.
Yeah.
So problems there for the Ed Christie and Neil Mills Class B. BMW M3. He's only done 5 laps, so I don't think he's been out. Yes, he's been out. He did 1 lap. He hasn't even done 1 lap, sorry. He's done 3 corners since he come out the pit lane.
Obviously realised that whatever the issue was hasn't been solved, and decided to call it a day.
There goes Andy Schulz, the leader in the BMW M3 that he shares with Matthew Hampson. And he's got a bit of traffic now to deal with. He's 7 seconds ahead of Steve Cheetham, who's just done his personal best lap, 2:06.6, who in turn's a couple of seconds ahead now of Matt Wallace. And it is Andy Schulz leading. Brit car reigning champion, I think he is, with Paul Bailey in a Ferrari, but out this season also in Club Enduro.
That's the 28 Lotus that we can see there. Stephen Lake's Lotus at least. Now I think that probably was the one I did see coming out of the pits a few laps ago, actually. There's Stephen Lake, I think, has pitted already in this race. Does that make sense in terms of his position? Yeah, I think it probably does, doesn't it, down in 37th.
Okay, Novice Cross on the back, so good to see that he's chose Club Enduro as a place to come out and play. He's battling with that Clapham North Mazda MX-5 there.
And did well at Alton Park as well, 11th overall and 5th in class as well. Very good result for Stephen Lake, who's coming towards us now. Then there's the Mazda just behind it. And there's the Kell, Mazda James Kell now aboard. And you can still see that BMW definitely catching, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Graham Kelly. So this is for what is 34th and 35th positions. James Kell just did do a PB though, a 2:17.41. The gap at the beginning of that was a full second. It's kind of still that, I guess. Here's car 14. This is Chris Freeman, who's third in Class B, and there's been a change for the Class B lead because Brian Chandler thought he's better get on with this, and he's got himself ahead of Mark Grice again and doing much better laps than he was at the beginning of this part of the race, and he's not far away from that fastest lap from earlier.
Yeah, very strange. I mean, his best lap time, Chandler's best lap time, 2:08.1. Grice is a 2:11.3, but now Chandler back into the 2:09s again with Grice into the 2:12. So very strange how that's worked out because the conditions aren't changing.
No, his pace somewhat fluctuating for no apparent reason, but it seems to be going quick again now when he's regained the class lead. There's the third place car in the class. That is Chris Freeman, who is 5 seconds ahead of the Volkswagen Golf of John Maudsley, who's got himself ahead of Tom Rogers recently, so that's a change for position behind this car, the Honda Civic.
Yeah, that's the number 14, Chris Freeman, Johnny Monday, Honda Civic Type R, 9th position overall at the minute. 18 laps have been completed by the race leader, Andy Schulz, 7.5 seconds ahead of Steve Cheetham, number 43. Matt Wallace about 2.5 seconds behind him. In number 10, the Seat Leon Euro Cup car, and then it's the Holden Commodore up to 4th place from row 17 of the grid, I think it was. William Ashmore aboard. We've seen Will win races in the past in things like Hot Hatch, from memory, a few years ago at Rockingham.
Yes, and Armed Forces Challenge as well, another thing. 3/4 of an hour have been completed, haven't they? So we're into that middle third of the race, as you say, when you'd expect the pit stops to occur. Cars blast across the line.
I guess you get into this phase of the race, you're now thinking, well, do I make my stop now? Do I wait and see if there is going to be a safety car at some point in the next, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so? And maybe wait for that to happen, because there's every possibility that there could be one here. 2:42.1, still the best lap of the race. What's the best lap in Class B? I think it is with Brian Chandler, 2:08.1.
It's significantly quicker, isn't it, than anything else?
Yeah, and quite a lot quicker than some of the Class A cars as well. Brian Chandler pushing that car very hard.
I reckon, though, in Class C, Jeremy Crook in his Honda Civic has done a better lap ever so slightly than Andy Bailey, 2:15.85. That's about a second and a half, though, slower than the lap record that was set by Steve Hewson, former champion.
Just catching a glimpse there of the 1:12 car of Manoj Patel, who we heard from in the assembly area at the start of the race. Now, he started relatively up the order. I think he was 5th on the grid, but down to 14th now. And I think he alluded to the fact that he was probably a little bit out of position. One car into the pits. Looks like it's going to be for a driver change. It's the 56 car. Lloyd Quinn it will be to hand over to James Scott for the second part of the race.
Patel, I think, is someone that drives his car to the circuit, so a road legal race car, that one. Into the pit lane has come Will Ashmore in the Holden there. So, and Steve Cheetham hasn't completed the lap either, so that would suggest he is also for the pits, possibly. Well, if he's not, he's in trouble because he hasn't completed lap 19 of the race. So Cheetham and Ashmore, presumably therefore, are in the pit lane.
Yes, that's car 43, Steve Cheetham, and it's the 7 car of Ashmore. He'll hand over to Matty Taylor, but going solo, as usual, Steve Cheetham. So 50 minutes have now gone in the race, still being led by Andy Schultz here. The Lotus heading over the timing line to complete another lap. And there's the 78 car. Now that was a car that was, we thought, in trouble for a little while. Kevin Dengate, how's he faring now? He's in
27th.
27th, oh yes, there he is. So way back where we'd normally expect to be. But nevertheless circulating, it appeared at a reasonable pace. So maybe there was a problem or a recovery from a spin or something when we caught Kevin Dengate earlier on.
If he made a pit stop, I'm not sure we mentioned that or not.
I've marked him as having made a stop.
He actually might not be in a bad position though, so that might be one to watch. Like a number of the cars when it all works its way out later. The only one that really does look like it is in a good position is the Baker Swift car, assuming the car can get to the end on the tank of fuel that it currently has got. They're up to 3rd overall now, behind Andy Schultz and behind Matt Wallace. And the field make their way through. Class B, that's still led by Brian Chandler, but only just 3/10 ahead of Mark Grice. And in 3rd, Chris Freeman. Then in Class C, still Jeremy Crook, but he has now into 2nd place Joe Marshall. So Joe Marshall, now he's gone from a Lotus to the Mazda. He's gone into Class C, unsurprisingly. And then James Alford in a BMW 330 is 3rd in Class C. There were the 2 Class B leaders across the line. Brian Chandler still only just ahead of Mark Grice, but we look back to the Class C car.
Yeah, about 0.3 of a second, I think it was.
Graham Kelly's ahead.
He is now, isn't he? So James Keller's lost out the BMW here. So that is significant, because the Kell car, 3rd in the championship, coming into this weekend with the win last time out at Alton Park within Class C. The lowest of the power to weight ratio classes. Remind you, it was Alan Henderson that took the overall and Class A win, and Mark Grice and William Beach that won a Class B at Alton Park. So Kelly then now ahead of that Kell Mazda. Oh, and now is that Luke Handley? Yes, I think it is, pulling off to the left-hand side of the circuit. I think he was going to pull on to the now he's stopped and turned the engine off and he's trying to restart the car. Maybe he's trying to reset something in the car, and he pulls away again. Sometimes with these modern cars that does work. But Luke Handley there, very much one of the front runners.
And Kevin Dengate's off too.
Maybe not quite in such a good position as we thought. That's at Rich's corner, as you can see with the damaged Joe Lockhart in the back. But yeah, Luke Handley, 5th in the championship coming into this weekend. One of a few drivers on 22 points.
And he was one of the only Class B cars to pit in that safety car period, so we thought he may be in a good position in this race, but we saw him have an off earlier, didn't we? And now he's stopped the car with some sort of mechanical problem, electrical, you wonder.
And now, of course, the car that we're seeing on screen there, 6 car, Baker and Carl Swift, is up to 3rd position on the road again, and it's 42 seconds behind the Hampton and Schultz car.
Yes, so it's going to have a bigger lead, isn't it? If he doesn't have to make another stop.
Which is an if, but
I wonder if
Rob Baker was fairly confident, didn't he?
Well, he sort of said they were tight on fuel, and then he sounded much more confident after that.
Yeah, on the fence really, but I took from that they thought they'd get to the end okay.
So here is Joe Marshall in that Clapham North MX-5.
Yeah, imagine that car's a late substitute this weekend. Busy little bit of action here involving the number 12 car, which is the Tom Rogers and John Griffiths Class B Honda Civic Type R, the Nottinghamshire drivers.
They were out in a Clio when they made their debut in Club Enduro a year ago. Now this battle continues between Graham Kelly and James Kell, 2 Class C cars. Both cars that have pitted, they're in 29th and 30th. They have, though, fallen 20 seconds behind Andy Bailey, so they haven't got the pace of the Honda Civic driver, who is a real championship contender. Equal on points with Rob Baker and Cole Swift in the overall order.
Well, there's a hot air balloon, desperately trying to stay airborne by the looks of it. It's gradually going to drift out of our shot if he's not careful. Heading groundward. I don't think I've seen too many hot air balloons from race circuits before.
Certainly not at 750 Motor Club meetings.
Let's hope you can bring that down safely, because it doesn't look like it's going to stay airborne for much longer. I'm no hot air ballooning expert, and it's not what I'm being paid to commentate on, quite frankly. But it is heading towards the ground.
Looks like we're not the only ones looking at it either.
No, it's making a good few photos.
Everybody's at it now.
It's finding a bit of... It's rising again. This is the TEGIWA Club Enduro Championship race here at Snetterton, featuring hot air balloons in Class D. That's the 25 car of Darren Ball. And how's he faring at the moment? We're scrolling down our screens to find him, which suggests he's not that high up the order.
24th, but he was one of the few Class A cars to make a stop earlier. Looks like we've got the Holden Commodore back out in 13th. Is that right? That's impressive if that's correct.
That's what it appears to be on our screens, yeah.
Was that a full pit stop?
Well, that's a good question, and probably the way that we find the answer to that out is if we see it being brought in for a pit stop penalty at some point. Another car in is the 115, which is Jamie Ingram, who's going solo. In the background, I can see the 62 BMW of Ben Woodcock. He'll be handing over to Andy Gay as well. So it looks like there's going to be a change of drivers there.
There's no way that's a full pit stop, because they couldn't have lost much more than a minute or minute and a half, something like that. So perhaps, they're only 2 minutes behind the leader, and they were 30-40 seconds behind before that. So obviously a small issue that needed to be fixed, and not a driver change.
There's the driving standards flag going to go out, so I'm trying to see what the number. Oh, I've just hidden the number from me. I thought I was going to see it. More numbers are now being pulled out of the rack as well, so there's a couple of cars that are going to get a driving standards flag by the looks of it.
James Kell down the inside of Graham Kelly in the Class C battle. They've been at it for a little while now.
49 and 78, the two drivers getting driving standards flags. So one of those is Kevin Dengate and the other is Joe Marshall.
Okay, so through Coram comes this battle, which could be for a pretty good position in Class C at the end of the race, and it's the BMW of Graham Kelly in front, but he's slow out the corner, so James Kell gets alongside. James Kell, the winner, with his dad Darren from Oulton Park. Graham Kelly hasn't had that kind of success really, has he? So this could be a good end result for him if he can keep it up. But he has lost that position in the end to James Kelly's ahead as they turn into Ritchie's.
News from Matt Suckling. He's told me that the Commodore, the Will Ashmore and Matty Taylor car didn't do a full pit stop. They thought they had a left rear puncture. So it wasn't the intended stop, but they were concerned they had a left rear puncture. Presumably they've satisfied themselves that they don't have a left rear puncture and the car's gone back out.
And they didn't choose to make the pit stop while they were there. Now we're getting towards that halfway stage now, aren't we? 58 minutes completed, 62 to go. And now James Cowell's got ahead of Graham Kelly. He's pulling away. James Cowell, perhaps a bit more experienced driver, you'd say, Jess, than Graham Kelly. More used to doing these longer stints. Of course, he did some Ginetta racing last season, didn't he, before moving into British GT this year, which he's had some success in. I think he's had a podium in class, where he's competing against the reigning Sports 1000 champion.
Chippy Westmound, of course, who did a couple of seasons in Sports 1000. You could just see there the Nick Dougal car parked up against the barrier, couldn't you?
I didn't look in, so no, I couldn't.
Well, I could. I could see the Nick Dougal car. It's more or less actually where Richard Morris spun yesterday, which also we couldn't see very well. But I did look back at the stream last night, and if we hadn't blinked at the wrong moment, we might have seen it.
Okay. Brian Chandler is now 17 seconds ahead of Mark Grice, so he's extending that out pretty well. Joe Marshall now leads Class C, so that suggests we've had Jeremy Crook into the pits. He actually might be in the pits at the moment, so that'll be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to those who have pitted earlier.
Good to see the balloon has gained some altitude as well on the screens. I'm glad about that. Now that's the 115 car you can just see out of our window, just heading back out into the race. That's the Jamie Ingram car after its pit stop. We saw it making its stop a few minutes ago.
So he has come out further behind.
Yeah, a long way. 33rd is where he's showing on the screens at the moment.
So that's behind all the Class C cars that pitted even. There's a 5 minute, no, it was an 8:13. There was a long stop, wasn't it? So it was an 8:13 lap, take 2 or so minutes off for the actual lap time. So it's about a 6 minute stop. So that is why it's so far down.
Yeah. So normally it's got to be 3.5 minutes stationary. So you're probably looking at around about 4 minutes once you've got into pit in, pit out. But even though that's a couple of minutes longer than it should be.
Absolutely. Personal best now from Chris Freeman to 11.45 as he goes after Mark Grice. So Mark Grice being caught for second within Class B by Christopher Freeman.
Travel 7 cars just heading out of the pits. That's the that'll be now Alec Livesley at the wheel of that.
So that's an important stop. He has fallen behind Andy Bailey by getting on for a minute and a half. So that's what you lose by not pitting in the pit stop window. In the safety car period. So it is Kell from Kelly. Bailey from Kell, from Kelly, from Livesley out of those pit stoppers. But it's still on the road, leading Class C there is Joe Marshall, just watching him on the stream at the moment, and his Mazda MX-5. Actually, he's on the road around James Kell, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I think these two raced together actually in the MX-5 Championship. I remember watching them at Brands Hatch a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, that was Super Cup, wasn't it? That had been, or was it Super Series?
I think Super Series on that occasion.
Yeah.
I think Joe Marshall's been doing a bit of Ginetta racing as well. Let's see if I can check that.
Okay. While you're doing that, I'll just give a quick rundown on the order because we have just got over the hour mark. Is number 69 Andy Schultz leading the way in the BMW M3. Second, number 10 Matthew Wallace in the Seat Leon. Third, having made their stop, Carl Swift. Number 6 in the Seat Leon Euro Cup. Fourth, 176 Brian Chandler, yet to stop in the Lotus Exceed. Fifth, number 27 Mark Grice, yet to stop in the Golf. Sixth, number 14 Chris Freeman, yet to stop in the Civic. Seventh, number 118 John Maudsley, yet to stop in the Golf. 8th, number 88 John Atherton, going solo in the Elise. 9th, number 12, that is the car that was started by Tom Rogers, the Honda Civic Type R. 10th, number 7 the Matty Taylor and Will Ashmore Holden Commodore, that has been into the pits but not for a mandatory stop.
Yeah, Joe Marshall races with Rob Boston in the Genetic Super Cup, which makes sense since he's with Rob Boston this weekend in, well, he was going to be one of his Lotuses, but now in one of the MX-5s. He has had a best result of 4th last weekend at Croft, so he's had a pretty decent season in the Genetic Super Cup.
Yep, so there he is on screen now, that number 49 car, heading down to Agostini past the Tyrrell's cafeteria.
Looks like James Kelly's catching, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? In the number 68 car.
But obviously the James Kell car has been done to compete in this class, hasn't it? Where I'd suggest that's just an MX-5 Super Cup car that Joe Marshall is in, so maybe it doesn't quite go to the power to weight ratio. And he wasn't expecting to race that either, was he? So his best lap is a 2:18.5, which actually he just did, and the car that is on track around him
2:16.8 for James Kell, so a little bit faster, and the last lap was also close to his fastest lap time as well. But Kell is a lap behind because of the stop.
He gets alongside. Behind them you can see Brian Chandler, who continues to lead Class B, now 19 seconds ahead of Mark Grice. Again, he had his arm out the cockpit waving. Graham Kelly's gone off, and Brian Chandler is no longer leading by 19 seconds, is he, to that Gulf that's not that far behind him of Mark Grice. So Graham Kelly's back on again, so that was a bit of an odd moment for him. Yeah,
sort of did what Luke Candy did earlier on in the race.
So he didn't go right down the escape road, did he? He sort of rejoined, which is a longer way of doing it, really. I think if you know you are not going to make the corner, go down the escape road, and you don't lose quite so much time. The MX-5s are still at it. Is Brian Chandler going to get a bit confused here? Because he's got a couple of MX-5s in front of him. He might think he's in a Mazda MX-5 race.
Bring back memories. Another driving standards flag being hung out at the moment.
Now, was that a slow lap for Chandler? No, perhaps not then, 2:12.
2:12, what did...
So not the difference I thought it was. Again, it's that long shot, isn't it, that makes it look different.
Oh, dramas. And that's one of the Hondas. Is that the 12 car? I think it is, isn't it?
It's Tom Rogers.
Yeah, and that's created a very effective smoke screen, I'm afraid. That's looking quite a serious conflagration on that car.
You'll never guess what he did on the previous lap.
His personal best lap.
2 minutes 13.79. He's out the car now, which is good to see.
Yeah, no, I'm not quite sure how close he is to any Marshall's post there. That's the only thing.
He's on the wrong side of the circuit. The Marshall post is on the other side of the track.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty scary moment for anybody going down there, isn't it?
Well, you can see drivers getting on the brakes because they just cannot see what is the other side of that smoke screen. And that will also be drifting over towards Agostini now as well, won't it? So that will be causing a problem there.
It might even go towards Murray's as well. So now the entry to the Brundle corner is clear.
Yeah, I can see the smoke rising out of our commentary box window as well. So it is making its way across the circuit now. I'm trying to say I think there is something underneath the car there that was stationary. It looked like there might be 1 or 2 flames licking under there. So hopefully that can be attended to. Although it looked like the main smoke had gone. Stop-go penalty board, or the back of it is a stop-go penalty board. It doesn't necessarily mean that the side that's being shown to the driver is a stop-go penalty. But looks like someone's being called in, and that could be for pit lane infringement, maybe speeding in the pit lane or something like that. It's the 115 car that's getting it. Thanks, Matt.
That's Jamie Ingram, who had the really long stop, isn't it?
So maybe it's a long stop and then blasted out in pit lane. That's the possibility there. I'm getting messages at the same time from Jason Noble and Matt Sutty. Black and white flags for Graham Kelly as well. He has also had one, as well as the 115 car of Jamie Ingram. Thanks, Jason.
He was exceeding track limits earlier, but I don't think that was a very effective way of doing so.
Didn't get much of an advantage out of it. So they will have to come into the pits and make a stop-go penalty. Well, it would just be a stop and then go. It will be a period where they have to stay stationary in the penalty box as well. Meanwhile, the Bacon Swift car now is within 40 seconds. Stripy flag, yellow and red stripy flag there is warning of fluid on the circuit, and that will be because I would think of the whatever it was that was put out by the engine that let go on the number 12 car.
It is.
There is a Marshall now, I can see, just on the scene.
Yeah, so there's Marshall post just out of shot on the inside of Brundle. So obviously one of the Marshalls from there has made his way down to greet Tom Rogers. So That means no go for John Griffiths, who was due to get in the car in the second half.
Yeah, well, we are in the second half now indeed. 52 minutes of this 2-hour race to go. The TEGIWA Club Enduro race here at Snetterton on the 300 circuit. And it's being led at the moment by Andy Schultz in the BMW from Wallace in the Seat, and then another Seat, but one that's already made its pit stop. And that's Carl Swift aboard that car at number 6. 52 minutes of the race remaining then, and there's Kevin Dengate, and also number 6, the car that we were just talking about. So both of these have made their stops, I think, but it's Swift that we're most interested in, the blue, black and white Seat, up in 3rd position. What's the gap to the leaders now? It's 39 seconds, it's actually gone out a little bit that time. A slower lap for Swift relative to Schultz, but it's all academic because Schultz will lose quite a bit of time in the pit stops.
And so who's going to come second, which is interesting. And the first of the Class A cars to have stopped is Darren Ball, who is 15th overall now in the Porsche Cayman. And he, in turn, is about 35 seconds ahead of Kevin Dengate, who we just saw there.
Right, stop code bit of scored was for 115.
Dengate's off now.
So moments after he appeared on screen, he's off at Rich's there, isn't he?
He was very close to Cole Swift, wasn't he, at Murray's?
He was. Now, going through the gravel has dislodged the bumper, and rescue crew hopping out of the rescue vehicle to try and see if they can get the car moving, but it looks well stuck in the gravel there, doesn't it?
Indeed. So he hasn't reached the tyre wall. It is a little bit of an awkward place, really, isn't it? They're head on off the road. And the bumper's being removed. I think you're right, just the gravel that took that away. He hadn't gone into the tyre wall. Don't think Brian Chandler's got much in the way of a pit crew, has he?
If you want a job doing, as the old adage goes, do it yourself. So,
of course, he does run a garage down in Haverhill, BC Cars. So I'm sure he knows what he's doing. But trying to do the stop in the time frame, it does make it a bit more difficult, doesn't it, when you've got to do everything yourself?
I suppose with 3.5 minutes to play with, though, that's a reasonably generous amount of time in the scheme of things. The Holden's coming in the background, you can see. This will be for its scheduled stop, I imagine, then. So for Will Ashmore to hand over to Matty Taylor, hopefully he'll be comfortable with the situation on the tyres on that car now.
Yeah, you'd imagine that car uses up more tyres than anybody else, really, wouldn't you?
Our cameraman was clearly anticipating the car arriving into the pit lane because it was right in position for it. So driver's out of the car, which has to be done before the refuelling goes in.
We've got a snatch tractor down at Ritchie's that can remove that car under local yellows, can't it?
Yeah, driver just going to make sure that gets hooked up effectively, and hopefully this will continue without the need for safety car. There's probably teams and drivers that they wouldn't mind a safety car being called for this. No indication that we're going to get that at the moment, though. 49 minutes of the race left to go in this TEGIWA Club Enduro race. Kevin Dengate's Red Rascal BMW number 78 being hauled out of the gravel at Rich's Corner, the first corner on this 3-mile lap.
The rescue unit guys in the Torque racewear, their new suits for this year look good, don't they?
Certainly do, very smart indeed. As the number 6 then, which will gradually be climbing up the order, just going past that number 707 BMW, which started at the back, the Jonathan Barrett E46 330.
Currently 15th, yet to stop.
Yeah, so he's climbed up the order, hasn't he, because of that?
Although he's only, 3/4 of a minute ahead of Andy Bailey, who has stopped. And Andy Bailey is now 26 seconds ahead of James Kell.
There's the 42 Integra, lovely looking car, the Integra, I always thought. And has that stopped yet? No, it hasn't, has it? It's in 7th place overall, so it's still going to be Tom Whitehead aboard that at the moment. So Kevin Dengate's been released from the gravel, but is he just going to... Well, it's on the grass, but it's not handling very well.
Right, I imagine he's shaking the gravel out, ready to rejoin.
Yeah.
Not gone behind the tyre wall, so I suspect that Kevin Dengate can get back going.
He will rejoin. Obviously lost a lot of time, probably want to head back into the pits just to get everything checked over if indeed he does continue for the rest of the race.
That's put him out of contention where he actually was looking like he could have a good result. There, 128 is Marcus Burnett, somebody that's done a bit of racing at the Nürburgring. He was there the year I went to the 24 hours where we had hail and snow on one half of the track, or one part of the track, where there was sunshine on another, and the race had to be stopped. If you've done that race, you'll think you're pretty prepared for anything.
Even a drizzly day at Snetterton. Yeah, I should think so. And not drizzling at the minute. Staying dry at the moment. Still the best lap of the race at 2:04.21. 8/10 outside the lap record for these cars.
There's the leader, Matthew Wallace, whose birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday for tomorrow, Matt. Everybody's birthday seems to be over this weekend.
It does seem to be the case, doesn't it? It does seem to be the case. So Schultz then having come in from the lead.
Where will he appear? Around sort of Darren Ball is where the battle is, isn't it? Who had pitted earlier.
Yeah, Matthew Hampson will pick that up. Marcus Burnett getting a bit over the curb there on the exit of the corner. So Matt Wallace, hello to Simon. They have 15 points at the moment in the championship, so they're a little bit out of contention for the championship in this car.
8th and 9th, I think, in the two races.
Yeah, I think that's right, and 5th and 6th respectively within the class, which is where the points are scored.
It's Area Motorsport 1-2-3 now. Matt Wallace from Cole Swift and Mark Grice.
Still, the marshals showing driving standards flags from the pit wall. Blue flags as well being waved by the marshals to let slower drivers know that quicker cars are about to come past. There's the 27 car then, so that's the car that's in third place at the moment. Still Mark Grice aboard that, isn't it?
Leads Class B.
He does, and puts a lap on the Mazda of James Kell. Just behind him is the 14 car, so that is for position, isn't it? As well.
Yes, that's been catching.
It has. Yeah, only 4/10 or so faster on that lap.
Of course, any one particular lap doesn't really tell a story sometimes in these longer races with traffic and
it doesn't.
the like, but over the average, over the last 5 or so laps, that must have been coming down, because that was a much bigger gap earlier.
It was. So that's Chris Freeman at the moment in the Honda Civic Type R, drive from Loughborough.
Yeah.
And head over to his fellow Leicestershire driver Johnny Bundy for the second half.
Brian Chandler's got out of the pit lane, but he had a slow stop. It was over 5 minutes, I reckon.
Okay.
So he has fallen behind Luke Handley, who remember made that stop earlier. But I think we've had the Maudley and Mead Golf in, haven't we?
We've not seen it, but yes, I think you may well be right. Yes.
So I think that is the leading pit stopper within Class B, just ahead of Luke Handley by a couple of seconds, and then Brian Chandler about 15 seconds behind them. But of course, these two cars we're watching on the stream, which actually are right behind Luke Handley, are the battle on the road for the Class B lead, and that isn't an ideal approach to Murray's for Mark Grice. He's an ex-autograss racer, isn't he?
Yeah.
He was very sideways there, but he saved it pretty well. And he's still ahead of Chris Freeman.
Yeah, in circuit racing, he's had success in Honda Civic racing as well, hasn't he? But on this occasion, he's in the Golf, doing battle with the Civic just behind of Chris Freeman.
It looks like that Golf's sort of on Volkswagen Racing Cup spec, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's not so many cars in that particular competition now these days, are there? Maybe because they've come over to do Club Enduro instead, some of them. That's the 27 car, so it's now cleared the Luke Handley car, which is a lap down.
So the leading Class C car is the BMW 330 of James Alford from Jonathan Barrett, but they're both yet to pit.
Yeah, both of them in 330 as well, aren't they?
Yeah, and then it's Andy Bailey. So Andy Bailey certainly looks good to have another class win, which means fastest lap points important against the Baker and Swift team, isn't it? Because there are equal on points coming here. Neither of them have scored fastest lap points at either meeting so far, but that may change because Rob Baker set the fastest lap in Class A earlier. And in Class C, I think Andy Bailey might have that as well, in fact.
host of drivers getting the driving standards flag, including the one that we can see on screen at the moment. Number 27, Mark Grice, he's seeing the driving standards flag. So too is Colin Gillespie, 15, 68, James Cowell, and also the Treble 7 car, the car now driven by Alec Livesley, the Honda Civic. So quite a few drivers seeing the black and white driving standards flag.
We saw Mark Grice get very sideways a moment ago, didn't we? So you have to be careful when doing things like that. You're not exceeding the track limits, and he is under increasing pressure from Chris Freeman. And then both these drivers to switch out to Will Beach and to Jonathan Munday. So yet to see how their paces are compared to what their co-drivers are currently doing. And these two drivers doing a much longer stint than the second driver will get. And they're going to do another lap. There is now Andy Schulz, who's handed, so it's not Andy Schulz anymore, of course, and Matthew Hampson, and that has come out in 6th place, hasn't it? So that is ahead of Darren Ball. So that car, you'd think, is still on for a podium. Should be good for
second place, shouldn't it?
Depending on Matthew Hampson's pace comparing to Andy Schulz from earlier.
Yeah, it's not yet done a representative lap time, so we'll have a look next time through to see what kind of pace Matthew's lapping in. But Schultz did a low 2 minutes 6 earlier on in the race. Still this battle going on for Class B lead. The car that's from Class B that's out there, John Atherton in the Lotus Elise, but he's about 36 seconds behind those two.
Luke Handley's got himself ahead of the Gulf, the Maudsley Mead car, which is for the Class B leading stopper. And they're both being caught by Brian Chandler, who's only 10 seconds behind now. But as we say, these two cars have got to factor into that battle yet. So Class B is pretty intriguing, I think, in this race, isn't it? And they're the ones in the championship that are a bit further behind. Colin Gillespie and Luke Handley are the equal champion. And the Freeman Munday car, they're all on 22 points, aren't they?
Yeah, so very even at this stage of the season. Three-quarter way mark of the season after this race, of course, just the one round to go at Donington Park next month. 40 minutes of this race left to go. And most of the drivers now have made their pit stop. Still not all of them, though, as we've said. Maybe there are a few that have... In fact, we'll be clinging onto a roundabout now, thinking, well, let's see if there's a safety car until we get to the 40-minute mark, and if not, we'll just have to go for it. Just change over.
Does this suggest Matthew Hampson's not as quick as his teammate? He's being passed by Class B cars.
Possibly so.
And that has allowed Chris Freeman to get right onto the tail of Mark Grice. And we know he made an error here a lap ago. He runs wide, and we know he's got the track limit warning already. So that'll be closely inspected, won't it, how far wide he did run there.
Yeah, of course you get the track limits. Driving standards flag, the next penalty is a 5-second time penalty, then 10 seconds, and another 30 seconds, making 45 altogether. And the next penalty after that is exclusion, and that applies to the car, not just to the individual, or disqualification, I should say, the car, not just to the individual driver.
Hampson is... Oh dear.
The two Class B leaders coming together there. I mean, they both continue, but a big biff in the door of the Golf, and on the left front wing of the Civic there.
What I was going to say was Matthew Hampson is 10 seconds a lap slower than Andy Schulz at the moment in that car. So the battle they were really having was with the Wallaces, wasn't it? So we could get the Wallaces into a good result here. And Darren Ball is half a minute behind Matthew Hampson, but was 7 seconds quicker on the most recent lap. So this is a real improvement for Darren Ball in that Porsche Cayman on the first couple of meetings.
It certainly is.
Well, particularly on Silverstone, where the car caught on fire.
Well, it's hard to go backwards from there, isn't it? Yeah, it was a non-finish there. We only finished 31st at Alton Park and 10th in class, so certainly an improved showing here for Darren Ball. The number 25 Porsche Cayman, new car for him this season. He enjoys racing in the Club Enduro and has no problem with the Long Tower race. He's even in a 3-hour race solo. Quick rundown on the order as it stands then. It's Matthew Wallace, number 10, leading from number 6, Carl Swift in second place. In third place it's number 27, Mark Rice. 4th, number 14, Chris Freeman. 5th, number 88, John Atherton. 6th, number 69, Matt Hampson. 7th, number 25, Darren Ball. 8th, number 707, Jonathan Barrett. 9th, number 95 now, Andy Bailey. And 10th, number 89, that would be James Alford. But 7 of those cars yet to make their stops.
And the 2 Class B leaders, do they continue? Not both of them, no. The
No.
Golf is in.
The Golf is in.
So that's Mark Grice to hand over to the car owner, William Beach. So that is going to be really interesting where that comes out, comparing to Luke Handley, who made his pit stop earlier. The Golf has lost a position, has it, to Brian Chandler. And actually, Brian Chandler's going to pass Luke Handley soon. He's only 3 seconds behind him. So Chandler v Beach, we'll find out in about 3 minutes' time, won't we, what the situation is.
Certainly will. It's Darren Ball blasting past our camera. Fantastic impression of speed of these cars that you get from the pit lane, pit wall vantage point. And there you can see the damage that was done to the Golf with that incident with the hairpin a couple of laps ago, Josh.
Indeed, where Christopher Freeman tried to grab the class lead into the Wilson hairpin and it didn't quite pay off. We say this is a Volkswagen Racing Cup spec car. They're fairly used to that, aren't they? There's Brian Chandler. So after about to coming into a position of strength, Brian is climbing out of the car.
Yeah, and that's just on the exit of Palmer, isn't it? I think
It is.
he's pulled off, not too far away from the pull into the paddock actually, but obviously the car would go no further. It's going to need a straight toe by the looks of it. Looking at the signal of the marshal.
Did that car get to the end, Alton? Have you got that? I don't think you've got a decent result because it's not on my success spreadsheet.
What number is it again?
76. Or was it 176?
176, you're right. 33rd overall, 12th in class.
Yeah, so I think
Seem to remember having problems at Alton as well, actually.
okay.
I can't quite remember what, but that suggests it probably did do.
Michael Downey has been given an 80-second penalty, so that would suggest his pit stop was 20 seconds under what it should have been, maybe?
Possibly, yes. I mean, that sounds like a feasible reason for that. It could also be for speeding in the pit lane with 1 second for each kilometre per hour over the limit, but that would suggest she was going quite a lot.
Let's hope not.
So I'm going to go for your original suggestion.
More comments coming in on the live stream. Sammy Nudd, who's here, saying glad the weather's held out. We thank her for the birthday cake yesterday, which we missed out on today, mainly because I ate the rest of it last night.
35 minutes of the race left to go, and it's Wallace that will surely soon hand over to Simon Wallace, his brother, because there's only just over half an hour of the race left to go, Josh.
It's not very fair brotherly love, is it?
No, exactly. I'm sure it's all been agreed in advance.
And actually, they look like they might get a good result here. I reckon this could be on for second, because their pace is a lot stronger than Matthew Hampson's.
Yeah, and I think the two brothers will be quite equal as well, won't they, in terms of their lap times?
Yes, we saw Matt Wallace do a lot of MR2 racing, didn't we, with pretty decent success. Simon concentrated more on Honda Civics, if I recall correctly.
Going back to your Michael Downey penalty, yes, it will be for a short pit stop. So 20 second too short pit stop plus the 1 minute is a stop and go penalty reserved for the excess speed in the pit lane. Plus, with the amount of time you're stationary, equating to how fast you were in relation to the 60 km per hour limit. Was that the beach car? Yes, it was the beach car, just getting out past my window and back out into the race.
And he is ahead of Luke Handley. So that is the leading pit stop. So really it is them against the Freeman Monday pairing, and well, a moment ago there was no gap between them at all, was there?
As evidenced by the door. As the winner-elect, if you like, the 6th car of Rob Baker and Carl Swift. Carl Swift at the wheel at the moment, Rob Baker just having that very short 10 minutes in. That's just sometimes how it goes, but that they go into this race, this pairing, knowing that that's how it might pan out, and they're not too worried about splitting the track time evenly.
when Matt and I were at Silverstone, the same thing happened, but in the opposite way round. They made the pit stop right at the end of the race. And Rob Baker only did a few laps, so Rob doesn't seem to like too much racing in front of Matt and I. But I think he did a bit more driving, didn't he, at Alton Park?
Yeah, he did. But yeah, that's the way they go. They've got the mind on the strategy.
Looks like Matt Wallace might be in, because now they are the leading car, Rob Baker and Cole Swift. And they're going to lead, really, by the best part of 2 laps at the end of this, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is a lot. It's fair to say. I mean, it's not a true reflection of... I think they were going to win anyway, but it's not a true reflection of their advantage over the rest.
No. And there we can see the 10 car in, and just coming in front of it is the little John Atherton Lotus, the car that's been running. It's up to 4th in the rankings, having not made its stop. With what have we got? 32 minutes of the race left to go. So that's the new race leader. Carl Swift, number 601, sat lane taking it from the other.
Looks like all the Class C pit stops have been done, so that now reflects some sort of sense, doesn't it? With Andy Bailey leading by over half a minute, so this has been a dominant drive from him, ahead of James Kell, and then there's another half a minute or so to Graham Kelly. Jonathan Barrett, 4th in the BMW. Has he completed his stop yet, though? Because you said he was in, I think, not that long ago. So he may have not completed his stop, in fact. And that would promote Alex Livesey in the Jeremy Cook Honda to 4th, quite possibly. And then Joe Marshall in the MX-5 to 5th, by the looks of it, in Class C. But it's the top 3 looks pretty set, with Bailey ahead of Kell, who is ahead of Kelly. All the cars that stopped in the pits in the safety car period.
Yeah. Rob Baker looking over the Seat there.
And in the overall order, Andy Bailey is up to 8th as well, so it's a really good overall finish in store for them as well.
He qualified well, and he might well get a good finish out of it as well. In the lucky Class C car on the Civic.
So we await the Freeman Monday pit stop, don't we? That's the only real important stop, actually, might be the only full stop left.
Yeah. I did just hear the pit lane klaxon go off. I wonder if that's the car going in. But yes, pretty much everyone has now stopped. Obviously the Hampson car now back up into 4th, and that will become 2nd for a time at least, won't it? When the Freeman and Monday car goes in, and the Wallace car.
Depending where the Wallace has come out in comparison.
True, yeah.
Because we expect that to be fairly tight battle, don't we? Problems for the Holden.
It's not holding on to the end of the race, I'm afraid. Commodore is out of Lashmore and Matty Taylor. Matty Taylor was doing the second stint, not getting as much of a run. Got a 5-second penalty now being shown for somebody, and that's Jamie Ingram, I can see. 1:15 now getting a track limits penalty showing on our timing screen. It's well down the order anyway, so it's not going to make too much impact up at the front.
Chris Slater, who knows the guys well down there, doesn't he? So strictly speaking, it's not a Holden Commodore. It's a Chevrolet Lamina from Bahrain. I don't even remember, there was a Middle East series for V8 cars a few years ago. But to me, a Holden Commodore sounds better. I don't know about you.
It does. It does.
Oh, this is what we saw at the beginning of the race, isn't it?
It is, and that side by side, and it's the 1 different laps, of course, this time. And that is the 6 car, the leaders, putting a lap on the Hampson car. 2 laps, in fact, yeah. So they've come through to complete 39 laps in the case of Carl Swift and 37 laps in the case of Matthew Hampson.
Matthew Wallace is already back out, or Simon Wallace is already back out onto the circuit. So that looks good for them to have a podium. Not sure if we've seen them have a podium in the past. I know they look good for second.
You're going to get your data out of there, but certainly as far as this season is concerned, they've not had one. There is Simon Wallace, number 10, making his way around the Agostini hairpin with 28 minutes of the race left to go.
No, I don't think we've had a podium for the Wallace brothers yet, and they look set for second in this race. There they are.
How are Josh Leake and Luca Diella faring at the moment? They are in 19th position in their Class B Honda Civic Type R. Who started that car? It was... I've lost them on my list. Can you find them?
What number are we looking?
It is the 130 car. So it
That was Luca.
Luca that started that, and it was Luca Stefano that's put in a message and congratulating them on their performance so far. So that's Luca Diella and Josh Leake. Josh Leake, I think, now at the wheel of that number 130 car in 19th position.
Half an hour to go. On lap 40 is the leader, Cole Swift. It's a shame they had such an advantage in that pit stop, isn't it? Because their pace, they didn't really need it.
No, and looking at the lap times, well, I mean, obviously there's traffic, so we can't really directly compare it to the best lap time, which is a 2:04. That last lap for Carl Swift in the 2:09s, and you just sense that they're pre-driving the car well within itself, just to make sure there's no issues with fuel towards the end of the race.
But it is still pretty much the quickest car on the circuit as well, though, despite
Notwithstanding that, yeah.
Because we lost Alan Henderson, of course. Have we lost Steve Cheetham?
This is a good point.
Because we haven't seen him for a while, have we? No, he only did 18 laps. So we thought he came to the pit lane, didn't we? Well, if he did, he retired into the pits. If he didn't, he went missing.
Yeah, we've not seen him out on circuit, so I suspect that was Steve Cheetham entering the pits. I don't know if perhaps Matt Suckling can see if he can go and find out what happened to last year's champion, Steve Cheetham. That's along with Alan Henderson, the most significant retirement so far this race. So there is a story behind those. It'd be interesting to try and find those out in the last 26 minutes or so. But yeah, Steve Cheetham, who was about 8th or 9th in the championship coming into this weekend on 18 points. 9 points off the lead. Don't think he was going to take the championship again this year.
Could Baker and Swift wrap up the Class A title here?
That's possible, isn't it?
Let's have a look. Yeah, because they had that 9-point lead over Cheetham, who's not going to finish.
Yeah.
And Henderson's not going to finish. So the Wallaces, they look to be second. That'd be a 16-point gap. And Baker and Swift have won 2 races, assuming it finishes up like this. So they are set to win the Class A title.
This is just about the last of the significant stops, isn't it, I think? Now, with Chris Freeman in to hand over to Johnny Monday with 25 minutes of the race left to go. 14 car into the pits. And that's the car that's shown on our timing screens in second position, but it will fall back. But where will it filter out in Class B is the question.
Well, the class leader, of course, is Will Beach, who we saw when Mark Grice was driving that Gulf, how close it was. There's Darren Ball in his Porsche, the Cayman, that runs in 5th, which will become 4th, and he's 18 seconds behind Matthew Hampson. Actually, on the last lap he was slower, but when I last looked at that gap, was it half a minute, did I say something like that?
Yeah.
So he's halved it. Can he bring it down further for a podium, which would be good if he can manage it. We haven't really got any more Class A cars going, have we?
No, lost a few, haven't we, during the course of this race, unfortunately. Various dramas. Joe Locke, the first of those, with his crash. Leon Bidgeway we've lost, Alan Henderson we've lost, Steve Cheetham we've lost. Kevin Dengate's lost time, of course, with his various dramas. So I've got a few Class A cars that have been rolled out, unfortunately. Had a good number of them starting the race. Let's go down to the pit lane. Matt Suckling once again.
Okay, we're down here with Matt Wallace, who has just jumped out of the number 10 machine. Matt, that was a fantastic stint. Quite a long one. Was that the plan from the start?
We were just waiting for a second safety car, to be honest. We were just hoping and praying there'd be another one. The first one came a bit soon for us, fuel-wise. So I just stayed out as long as I could, and then that last lap that I did there, my in-lap, the fuel was actually gone. The car was starting to splutter a little bit, so we had to make our stop then.
And in terms of that stint, it was good times. It was kind of a steady pace around that one. Now Simon's in the car. Can we keep that up and try and get a podium?
I hope he can keep it up. Yeah, it'd be nice if he can. We'll have to see how the tyres do and all the rest of it.
And the stats have gone well here today. We know that Carl and Rob are out front. Your kind of first podium in Club Enduro?
It would for Club Enduro, yeah, so keep everything crossed for that.
So in terms of the rest of the race, just plug on now. You've got the fuel in the tank, so you can just push on and get the laps in.
Yeah, the car's running really, really well, so it's just down to Simon to keep it on the tarmac, and hopefully we'll come home in a podium. Would be lovely.
And luckily the conditions have changed as well. No wet weather about on track.
No, it's really nice out there now. It's completely dry. It's just like a normal day. It's completely different to this morning, which was obviously very tricky.
Good stuff, Matt. We'll let you get back and see how Simon gets on.
Sorry?
We'll let you get back and see how Simon gets on.
Yeah, I know. Can't wait. Cheers.
There we go then, Matt Wallace down here, out the number 10 car. As he said, a long stint, but it was all about that safety car and trying to make sure it came at the right time, which it did. And so Simon now in the car and ready to go to the end of the race in car number 10.
And what Matt Wallace, and indeed Matt Suckling, didn't see there was that before we handed it down to that interview, we saw Simon off on the grass, but he did resume the tarmac, but lost a little bit of time.
It was quite a slow lap, wasn't it? 2:28, but he has held on to second, and he's still 25 seconds ahead of Matthew Hampson.
A couple of cars with problems, James Winstanley tells me, in that both car 14, which is Chris Freeman Johnny Monday Honda, and the 15 car, which is Colin Gillespie's Honda, neither of them have got third gear.
Right.
Apparently, so both of them struggling with that particular issue.
And you mentioned there Johnny Monday. He's come out half a minute behind Mark Grice, so he's second in Class B. Third in Class B, which is sort of shot up there, is John Atherton in his Lotus Elite. We haven't really mentioned him, but he's on for a Class B podium. Luke Handley is fourth, and then Stuart Mead is fifth, who doesn't appear to have the pace that John Maudsley did in that Gulf earlier.
Yeah, John Atherton, he went very deep into the race, didn't he, with his stop, and seems to have paid off for him. Just over 20 minutes to go. Quick rundown on the order.
2 laps gap, by the way, between the two leaders you just see on the screen there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a dominant performance this for number 6. Carl Swift, taken over from Rob Baker, of course. Second is number 10, that's Simon Wallace now having taken over from Matt Wallace. Third is the 69 car, Matthew Hampson having taken over from Andy Schultz. Fourth, number 25, Darren Ball. Fifth, number 27, the Class B leading Will Beach in his Volkswagen Golf, ahead of number 14 in 6th place, that's Johnny Monday in the Civic. 7th is number 88, John Atherton in the Lotus. 8th is number 95, leading Class C, that's Andy Bailey in the Honda Civic. 9th is 51, Luke Handley in the Honda. And then 10th, running out the top 10, is 68, which is James Kell in the Master MX-5.
The next Class A car is the Tom Gannon Honda Integra that really hasn't quite had the pace that I wondered it might do. 2 minutes 12 its best lap, which is 6 seconds off of Ben Rushworth's hot hatch lap record in a similar car. I thought that Tom Gannon might have got a bit closer to that.
Jonathan Barrett there has had a spin up there at Wilson, not too much harm done, and he rejoins just ahead of the 128, which is the Marcus Burnett BMW.
Burnett's further down now, isn't he? Down in 24th position. So he was higher up earlier. Change though, because 2 places lost for Johnny Monday. We heard about that gear that's not working no more, no third gear. He's lost 2 places, so John Atherton is up to second in Class B, and Luke Handley is through into 3rd position.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. And there's the race lead, though, leading by 2 laps. And even if they did need to make another pit stop now, they'd probably be able to do it and still get back in front if they needed to. Baker and Swift in the number 6 car.
Remember we said we had those 3 Class B cars on 22 points, so now Luke Handley ahead.
So we think there might have been contact we are hearing, which involved the race leading Carl Swift Seat and the Jonathan Barrett 707 BMW that was pointing the wrong way earlier on. So that possibly explains that. we can see if there's any sign of any damage there on the front of the set. Nothing immediately obvious. Maybe a bit of a crunch there.
Nothing to worry about for them.
No, nevertheless, a bit of an incident they've been involved with, maybe.
Going back to the point I was going to make in Class B, we had those 3 cars on 22 points, didn't we? And 2 of them were Luke Handley and the Freeman Monday car, and now Luke Handley ahead by just 1.4 seconds at the start of the lap. So that's a real close championship battle in Class B going into the final rounds at Donington Park in a month's time. Now here's Darren Ball. He's fallen away from Matthew Hampson, hasn't he? He's half a minute behind again. Slow last lap, 2:24 for Darren Ball. So did he have a moment?
Could have done, couldn't it? It's sort of that kind of lap time discrepancy that might indicate a brief spin somewhere. 17 minutes left to go. And got the little Lotus sweeping through as well. That's the 119 car that's now being driven by Will Stacey in the second part of the race.
He's another quick drive, isn't he, Will Stacey, in that Rob Boston car.
Another driver getting stop-go penalty by the looks of it. I can see there on our screens. I can see out of the window. Not sure who that's for. Hopefully someone will be able to let us know who is going to get that stop-go penalty.
One of your spies, isn't it, maybe?
Yeah. I'm relying on them to keep us informed, because I can't see the number that relates to at the moment. Hopefully nobody too significant. But yes, it is looking pretty settled as far as the overall in Class A situation is concerned, and indeed Class B now. And Class C, there's 9 seconds between the 2 leaders. That's the closest battle.
What's happened there then? Because Andy Bailey had over half a minute gap at one point when I last looked at the Class C gaps.
Yeah, well, his last lap was not particularly slow, 2:18, a bit slower than normal. And James Kelso wasn't particularly fast, so...
Has that been a consistent lack of pace, or was there one big loss? Because I guess the one big loss is actually better in the long term than a consistent loss, because if it's a consistent loss, James Cole could beat Andy Bailey yet.
He could do. So we'll keep an eye on that. There's 15 minutes or so of the race left to go. Still that stop-go board being hung out to whoever needs to see it.
Luke Handley's going after John Atherton for second in Class B, isn't he? That gap is only 4 seconds, and that came down pretty decently on the last lap.
Yes, that's the sort of yellow Lotus, isn't it? And the 51 Luke Handley car.
They should be across the line shortly, I think. So
Not too far away.
Let's see if that gap has come down any further. Atherton's gone through. There's Handley.
Yeah.
2:14.2 for Atherton, but personal best for Luke Handley at 2:13.3. So that's another second the gap's come down. That means the gap is now 3 seconds from second to third in Class B. John Atherton to Luke Handley.
Stop go for Marcus Burnett, 1:28.
It's another 2:18 for Andy Bailey as he comes across the line. And what lap time will we get out of James Kell? A 2:18, so that gap stays the same.
My eyes caught by the personal best lap time of Stephen Lake in 15th place overall, a 2:11.36. So I think he could make a few places before the end of this race.
And he's actually going after 5th in Class A, isn't he? That's a Class A Lotus, Stephen Lakes.
So he's got the Integra to get ahead of, and then it's
he's done
Class B cars. Yeah, he's done it. Yeah,
goes across the line ahead. So Stephen Lake up to 5th in Class A. The other thing that's going to change is this problem for Johnny Monday, who's being caught rapidly by Will Stacey, and he's going to lose 4th position in Class B. So, well, they looked like they could have got a class win at one point, didn't it? It's not going to be the case anymore, it would seem. Well, it's certainly not going to be a podium. It's not going to be a class win either. And it may not even be a 4th place, with Will Stacey catching at the rate he is. He was 6 seconds faster on the most recent lap. There's John Atherton, by the way, on your screens, lapping the Jonathan Barrett BMW. You can see in the background was the catch-in Luke Handley.
Yeah, so he's just about to make it in shot now. There he is in the Golf, just behind the Barrett BMW.
There's the struggling Johnny Monday Civic And there's the Lotus that's catching it. There is the Lotus driven by Will Stacey.
So that's going to be a change for 8th overall ultimately, isn't it, I think?
And he just got past Andy Bailey for what would be 9th. Andy Bailey ahead of James Kell. There's the Class B leader. That is William Beach. Or that was, that you could see a moment ago. There it is again. That leads the Class B in the Volkswagen Racing Golf.
Yeah, very smart cars, the Golfs, aren't they? Golf GTI.
This one is on this side.
Not so much the other at the moment. It still looks nice, even with that slightly bent door.
To be fair, I can't really tell it too much, can you?
Not without looking a little bit more closely, maybe.
I've seen Golfs in worse shape.
Yeah. Through Oggies goes William Beach, who drafted Mark Glyceven in to share the car, and they took it to a win at Alton. Looks like they are on course to do the same here, which will be good because it will get them more into contention in the overall championship, but still not desperately high up.
Well, they're only 5 points behind Luke Handley, aren't they? And at the moment, they'll be scoring 5 points more.
Yeah, so from a Class B championship point of view, they'll be right there. Overall, possibly not so much.
No, I don't, because Class B has had more variation, hasn't it?
Yeah, and the Class A and C points leaders look like they're both going to get class wins today as well.
Yeah, so... But winning your class championship is pretty important, isn't it? Because you've got them as your direct competition.
Yeah.
So that is what they would like to do. But of course, Luke Handley, therefore, would be keen not to be equal on points going to Donington and would like to get ahead of John Atherton for second in Class B, and that's what he's trying to do. Of course, he was stopped at one point in the race completely, wasn't he? Not in the pit lane, but out on the circuit. Yeah. And he had an off as well, didn't he, at the S's quite early on.
Yeah, there's 1 or 2 dramas.
So he's clawed back to a podium. Which step he'll be on the podium is yet to be seen. 2.4 seconds. He was behind John Atherton. I think you just see those cars going into Murray's in the background of picture there. The Lotus are still ahead, it looked like. You can see that car pretty easily. Bright yellow. Meanwhile, with Andy Bailey in problems here, the Class C leader, because James Kelly's much closer, isn't he? That gap was 6 seconds at the line. It was 9 when we last looked at it. It was about half a minute at one point, so it isn't a one particular error, it seems. It's a longer-term problem.
So maybe we're not going to get both Class A and Class C championship leads and the joint overall championship leaders winning their respective races, because, as you say, Andy Bailey, with 10 minutes of the race left to go, is starting to come under pressure. He's coming up to the line again to complete his 44th lap.
Again, this could be a car that's fuel saving desperately to make it to the end of the race, because it was one that pitted really early on, isn't it?
Gap between them is now, what, 1.125 seconds basically, isn't it?
Yeah, so James Kell should do this because he was 5 seconds quicker on that latest lap. He's right with the Civic now, and he looks to the outside. And does he drive around the outside of Andy Bailey? He's giving it a good go, and for whatever reason, Andy Bailey's car doesn't look particularly quick at the moment. Whether that's a fuel problem and he's just conserving, or if there's something else going on. But it was an easy pass for James Kell, and they're looking now for some back-to-back victories. And he wouldn't have thought it when he was falling away from Andy Bailey much earlier in the race, would he? No,
and this will as well get this car into overall, championship contention. Certainly, they were 4 points behind the joint overall championship leaders, and indeed the Class C leader Andy Bailey. So with the Kells here taking points off Bailey, it will narrow the gap, won't it? Which of them's got the best lap of the race, or have either of them got the fastest lap of the race in Class C?
Yeah, James Keller's gone quicker than Bailey now, hasn't he? 2:15.07.
But has anyone gone faster than that? I don't think they have, looking down the screen. So that would look like then it's going to be a 16-point haul for the Kells. So if I feed that into my spreadsheet,
that would put them equal with Andy Bailey if Bailey can get second, wouldn't it?
Yeah, they would do, because they're 4 behind and they've got 4 more on this occasion. Looks like it's going to be the way it finishes.
So it looks like Classes B and C are going to be really close going into the final round, where Class A looks like it'll be wrapped up.
Yeah. but still the overall championship
Yes.
up for grabs, as it's almost certain to be with the no drop scores this season.
You just never know what kind of competition they will get at Donington Park next month.
No, someone else getting a 5-second penalty now. Let's see if we can work out. It's Graham Kelly. He's got one. Alec Livesley's got one now. Jamie Ingram, I can see, has now got 15-second penalties. Well, all of this for track limits, and confirmation that the Michael Downey penalty earlier on, that was for a short pit stop. And so he's in 14th place in the number 76 car, and it will drop him back 4 or 5 places maybe. 7.5 minutes of the race left to go here at Snetterton.
Andy Bailey hasn't completed this lap.
So maybe it's a more serious problem than we first thought.
So has he run out of fuel? If it's my theory of being short on petrol. And this is going to completely turn around the Class C Championship if he does not finish, won't it? Because he won't be scoring just 4 points less than James Keller. He'll be scoring
16 points less. Or 15 points
Might pick a few up because, of course, there's only 7 minutes less, so there might not be 10 cars gets ahead of him.
Yeah.
To get classified, you don't need to finish an endurance race to score points, do you? So that puts Graham Kelly up to 2nd place now in the BMW 325i, and that will put the Alec Livesley and Jeremy Crook Civic onto the podium, because Bailey's still not come through, so it seems he has gone. This car's still going to get a podium, isn't it? Matthew Hampson. He's pulling away from Darren Ball now.
His lap times have improved, haven't they, over the course of his stint. Last lap was 2:13. He was doing 2:17s in the early part of his stint. He's over the line now. What does he do this time? 2:12. So an improvement on his previous lap, certainly, for Matthew Hampson. But several seconds off what Andy Schultz was doing in the early part of the race. But yeah, it should be good for 3rd position here.
Will Stacey's got ahead of Johnny Monday, by the way, for 4th in Class B. He's just done a PB, 2:09.96, which is still slower than that lap we saw from Brian Chandler in the earlier stages, but this Lotus has lasted the distance.
Yeah, up into 8th place overall as well, the Mansfield and Stacey Lotus.
11 seconds behind Luke Handley. Don't think there's going to be enough laps to catch him, is there? But it's been a good stint from him to chase his way up there. Still looking at that M3.
To see the 128 car leaving the pits, I think that's one of the ones that had a stop-go penalty, Marcus Burnett, so he'll have been in to serve that.
Strange we don't have many M3s anymore in the championship, isn't it? There was one stage where there was just loads of them, wasn't there? A couple of years ago.
Yeah, it just does change, doesn't it? And certainly people see that these Seats go well.
And I think some people just want to try something a bit different, like the Commodore, for example. You've got the Lotuses have come on this year, maybe because Joe Taylor won the championship in it last season. And won a lot of races as well. But yeah, the M3s have just sort of disappeared.
The E46 M3 would be a good, solid, reliable choice, wouldn't it, for Club Enduro? But there's perhaps more exciting and probably quicker choices as well.
And like with Darren Ball, if you say you're racing a Porsche, that's got a bit more going for it, I think, than a BMW. Although BMW's still a nice car to race, obviously, but that Porsche just sort of takes it to the next level, doesn't it? Particularly if you tell your mates, perhaps not down the pub at the moment, but tell your mates that you race a Porsche, they're probably get a bit more interested in it.
Yeah, not in certain parts of the country anyway. You can't tell them. 4 minutes of the race left to go. And there is our race leader. Dominant performance really from Rob Baker and Carl Swift, who's been in the car for almost all of the race. Pretty relentless showing from them. And
look at their last lap time.
It was slow, wasn't it? 2:19.96.
And what has happened to their teammate Class C car?
Well, that's a good point. That is a good point. Are they going to get to the end?
Andy Bailey's just made a pit stop, by the way, so that's a fuel, isn't it? A 4-minute pit stop.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So that'll be about that 3.5 minutes. So they've come. Andy Bailey has come out in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th position in Class C.
Yeah. So yeah, it was looking so good for him as well. So I'll just take those points away from him and giving them to him earlier on. Finishing second, we'll work out who he does get later. So yeah, we need to keep an eye on the 6th car. It led by 2 laps.
It's still just ahead of Matt Wallace and Simon Wallace now that we are looking at on our screens.
So they could almost park it now and still win the race, couldn't they?
I've always wondered what happens here if the leader of the race by multiple laps stops in a long race like this.
Well,
when does the checker? Because the checker flag's supposed to go out to the leader.
Yeah. Well, if the leader sort of parks, at Murray's for a few minute or two, and that sets off at the right time, providing he's still ahead, that could work.
Yeah, but if the car completely stops, who does the race wait until the new leader about 6 or 7 minutes perhaps later?
I think you have to, don't you?
Why have everybody running out of fuel then? It's always occurred to me, races say at Le Mans, like what actually happened at Le Mans, didn't it, a few years ago, where the car ran out of fuel. That stopped the Toyota a few years ago, although there was a car much closer to it to take the flag. Right, so a 2:15 that time for Cole Swift. There was when he crossed the line, 2 minutes and 40 seconds left. So is this going to be a really slow lap to make sure this is the last lap for him?
Well, it's the smart thing to do, and it's not looking particularly slow there to look at, is it? I was looking at the Golf GTI, the Mark II GTI, Nick List and Peter Grist. They're 27th overall in that car, which is an excellent effort. There's quite a late entry thing that they put in.
It's very much underpowered, isn't it, even compared to the Class C machinery around it?
Yeah, so I hope they've had an enjoyable afternoon in the TEGIWA Club Enduro Championship reel, showing the true spirit of what this competition is all about. So,
well, Cole Swift isn't really slow enough, is he? Not enough to make this the last lap. Wallace takes your points and stops at Murray's for a quick break.
No, so they're leading by a long way. Just behind them on track is the teammate car.
For second in Class B, both cars doing personal best laps, and they're separated by 6/10. So Atherton versus Handley is very much on now. Will Stacey's only 8 seconds behind them, but actually on that last lap was a bit slower. But that gap continues to come down. But the second place battle in Class B is going to go right down to the wire.
Yes, that's the little Lotus, at least the yellow Lotus, and the 51 white-black Golf of Luke Handley. So here comes the leading car. It's going to not be its last lap. It will have another lap to go at the end of this one. 40 seconds of the race to go. I'm sure they'd rather like it to be the last lap, just to make absolutely sure. But they're going to have to do one more lap of the 3-mile Snetterton circuit up to the line, and over the line it comes. 27 seconds remaining, so it definitely will be the last lap this time.
That was a 2 minutes 9, so it's a bit quicker as well. Perhaps now they've worked out they have got enough fuel, so they've told Cole he can drive back quicker pace. There's Andy Bailey back out after his fuel stop. There's a mini in dramas, it would seem. There they are, side by side for second in Class B. The Lotus is just still ahead of the Civic there, wasn't it? John Atherton to Luke Handley, so just went out of shot. I think we're going to catch up on that now. Yeah, so this is a battle of a second and third within class. They've still got a lap to go at the end of this. It's been a good drive from John Atherton. Luke Handley's had some problems, but he's recovered well too. But who's going to end up in second place? They've got another 3 miles to go at the end of this one, Ian.
Yeah, and that's going to be second place for the Will Beach Mark Bryce Golf, number 27. It's going to be 5th overall. This is the battle for 6th overall as well, just putting a lap on the number 191 Mazda. That's Stuart Humphrey, but Stuart Reid-Jones now at the wheel of that car. 2 drivers both from Kettering. So here they come. The battle for second in Class B will play over the line, and it looks like Luke Handley carrying good speed along the start and finish straight, the centre straight, up into Rich's corner. And I don't think there was any change in position there. Meanwhile, Carl Swift on his last lap, the clock having counted down to 0. Oh, and does that look like Handley was ahead, actually? Yes, he is, so Handley did get ahead at Rich's.
Last lap pass after 2 hours of racing.
Yeah, so John Atherton, who's done such a good job, and this is still a good finish for him, a podium finish. I'm sure he'll be delighted with that, but he'll be a bit frustrated, no doubt, to have lost second on the final lap, and I don't think, looking at it, that he's going to come back from that.
There's a number of cars going past the commentary box at very reduced speed, just trying to get to the end of the race. and one of them will be the leader, won't it? We'll have Cole Swift through shortly while that second place battle continues. John Atherton pushing on sideways out of Agostini, but here Ian is the leader.
Yeah, so it's not really been in doubt, has it? I don't think. I suppose we had that little question a moment or two ago as to whether they were slowing to conserve fuel, but out of Morris for the final time, and they are going to make it to the finish line for a second victory of the season for Rob Baker and Carl Swift in the TEGIWA Club Enduro Championship. It's a formation finish with the other car run by Area Motorsport, Simon Wallace at the wheel of that, but there's 2 laps between them. Rob Baker and Carl Swift getting the win. Number 6, number 10, Matthew Wallace, and Simon Wallace taking second place. And then other battles coming. Oh, and that's the car that was second in Class B. I think it should still be second in Class B. Leading Class B, I should say. 27 William Beach.
A dramatic way to win your class.
Up to the line he goes. So he just crossed the line in 5th place overall to win Class B in this TEGIWA Club Enduro Championship race. We've got various other cars coming across the line now. Graham Kelly, you can see he ended up with a 5-second track limits penalty as well during the course of that, and was second in Class C in the end, wasn't he, Graham Kelly, even with that penalty, I think, because behind James Kell and Darren Kell.
There's Luke Handley just ahead of John Atherton, and caught them at the end was Will Stacey. So 3 cars across the line, nose to tail for 2nd, 3rd and 4th within Class B. Luke Handley, John Atherton and Will Stacey. That was a great drive from Will Stacey.
Yeah, and he was lapping 4 seconds a lap faster at the end than the 2 cars ahead of him. I don't think there's any concerns with enough fuel on that car.
Stephen Lake recovered well too in the Class A Lotus to get back to 9th towards the end. So that's quite a bit of a gain from where we saw him earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's another good drive from Stephen Lake. Sort of almost unnoticed, a bit like it was at Alton Park. He's come through to take 9th overall. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th in class. The same class finishing position as he had at Alton Park. So that's a good result for him.
Still cars coming across the line. But I think the podium position cars have all been through, haven't they? So Baker and Swift the winner, the Wallace is second, and then Hampson and Shaw third. So all the podium cars are shared cars. Yeah.
Darren Ball fourth, number 25 in the Porsche Cayman. 5th, number 27, Will Beach and Mark Rice at the Golf. 6th, number 51, Luke Handley in another Golf. 7th, number 88, John Atherton in the Lotus. 8th, number 119. As Darren Ball's just crawled across the line there, we can see out of our windows. I think he was struggling on fuel to the end. 8th, 119. Mansfield and Will Stacey at the end in the Lotus. 9th, number 28, Stephen Lake in another Lotus. 10th, number 112, Manoj Patel, good drive from him in the Civic. 11th, the Maudsley and Mead Golf GTI, number 118. 12th, number 68, the Class C winner in the end, the Mazda MX-5 of James Kell and Father Darren Kell. 13th, number 14, the Chris Freeman Johnny Mundy Honda Civic Type R. 14th on the road, but with quite a penalty to be added to his time. Number 76, Michael Downey in the Porsche Boxer. 15th, 188, Graham Kelly. He gets a 5-second penalty in the BMW. 16th, number 42, that's the Tom Whitehead, Tom Gannon Honda Integra. 17th, number 777, Alec Livesley. He gets a 5-second penalty as well, but it doesn't change his position in the Honda Civic Type R. 18th, 130, the Luca Diella and Josh Leake Honda Civic Type R. 19th, number 49, Joe Marshall in the Mazda. And rounding out the top 20, the Steve Dolman and Paul Sherd Mazda MX-5 Mark IV, number 18. But let's head down to Matt Suppling.
Thanks very much, Ian. Yeah, down here with our race winner from the Club Enduro, Carl Swift and Rob Baker, and it's Carl Swift who did the second part in that race. Carl, longer stint than expected there due to the safety car, but it worked well.
It did. That wasn't inside our stopping window, so we were under-fueled for the race. So the first sort of 50 minutes of that were lifting, coasting, short shifting. Luckily, we managed to catch the train on the pit stop before we stopped, which I don't think many other people did. So we managed to jump a lap somehow, so it worked out great.
I think the guys in second at the time just missed it and came out a lap down. You, as you said, got out just in time, which was fantastic. We spoke to Rob. He said you were good on fuel, you were looking good. It should be right till the end. Towards the end there, though, the lap times just dropped off for some reason.
Yeah, it was just backing off. We'd got, I think, about a lap, so just backing off and saving the tyres. They're literally like jelly at the minute. So I just wanted to finish the race. I don't know if it's right, but they were saying over the radio that the championship contender had a problem, so it should be the championship wound up.
I think Class A looks good for you. I think about the overall, I'm not too sure yet, yeah. So it could go all the way, but we'll have a look at that one. One more round to come in terms of championship. That's going to be good fun as well.
Yeah, favourite track as well, Donington Park, local for me and Rob, so we've done plenty of laps around there. Just not sure about November weather.
It's going to be a little bit different, isn't it? It could be snow, could be anything, but hopefully it's not. It's going to be a little bit chilly. But good luck with that one. You and Rob, I'm sure, back in the car, and maybe Rob will get a little bit longer in the car.
Yeah, hopefully next time. I don't want an hour and 50 again.
Good stuff, well done, Cole.
Thank you.
There we go, then our race winner from that one, Carl Swift in Class A. We're going to have a quick chat with our Class B winner as well. He's just on his way over, and teammates, of course, and all the rest of it. So well done to the Class B winner there, William Beach. We had a quick chat to Mark before the race. You came home to finish the car, and Class B victory for you. That was good stuff.
Yeah, great race, thanks. Great job by Mark doing the longest stint. He didn't really want to do that long, but it all goes with the safety car, and it just all panned out nicely. Had a couple of little offs. Not just getting into the rhythm of it, just not I don't know, not that much time to do it.
And in terms of this year for you, the first round wasn't that good with the 1 point score, but then the next two have been fantastic with the 2 victories.
Well, yeah, it's been brilliant. First round we had overheating issues, but in the last 2 rounds we've been brilliant, especially now we're putting this new radiator on. The temperatures are spot on as well.
1 more round to go, of course, at Donington. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, hopefully we can tie the championship up there and jobs are good.
Good stuff, well done.
Thank you very much.
There we go then, our Class B winner in that one, and good luck for the next one for Class B. And then we move in with our Class C winner as well, which is James Kell. James, many congratulations on Class C. How was that race for you?
Yeah, it was long. We did an early stop under safety car, so I had quite a long stint, so I had to manage the tyres, manage the fuel, and go a bit safe to start with, and then build up the laps as we went. And really happy with how it turned out. We got what we wanted, which was the first place and the fastest lap, because I think that puts us somewhere at the championship now, is it? Yeah. So I think we're P1 in the championship, passing Andy. So really happy.
Yeah, I think Andy had a few problems, so that really does help you up in the championship. It's all going to be kind of on the edge going to Donington Park.
Yeah, it definitely is. I saw Andy had a few problems. He flew by me at the start. We were just really heavy with fuel, and the car doesn't like it when it's that heavy. So just had to pick up the pace near the end, and unfortunately for him, but fortunately for us, he had a few issues. So nice to take the win and nice to take the points as well, and hopefully going into the final round at Donington, me and my dad can get up there and hopefully win it. We'll see.
And in terms of Donington Park, is it a circuit you get on well with?
Yeah, I really enjoyed Donington Park, both the national and the GP circuit. Probably the national is a bit nicer, but the GP is pretty good. I do like it, and I think my dad's looking forward to going there as well. He hasn't been there in a while, so it's going to be a really good race, I think.
But it's going to be fun to watch, of course, with Class C as well, to be wrapped up by someone. It's going to be all action.
Yeah, definitely really looking forward to Donington, and hopefully me and my dad can get up there.
Good stuff, well done, James.
Cheers, thanks very much.
There we go then, Class C winner in the Club Enduro was James Kell. Class B there, of course, with the golf team, and Class A with the second victory of the year for Carl Swift and Rob Baker. We've got the 1 round to come at Donington Park, which we look forward to. But here today at Snetterton, 2 races left on the cards, and up next, the second race of the day for the BMW Car Club Racing Championship.